Chapter 457. Junior Su Jojo pays respect to the Grand Elder. Su Li bowed her head to salute. Su Chinka squinted and walked over to pull Su Li's arm without saying a word. He cut it with his finger, and a drop of blood spurted out immediately. Coldness flashed in Su Li's eyes, but she pretended to be in pain. Su Dian's face was even more gloomy. Su Chinka was too unscrupulous. But Su Chinka didn't feel anything wrong. He took out a transparent crystal ball for testing spiritual root from the universe ring and waved his hand. The drop of blood floating in the air fell and immediately integrated into the crystal ball. The color of the crystal ball gradually changed. This spiritual testing ball was obtained from a forging master. It is very precious. Even if you have lost all your cultivation and your foundation is destroyed, it can still test your spiritual root and potential. Su Chinka's voice echoed in the courtyard. Su Dian and Su Dingxian's faces changed slightly. As Su Chinka said before, Su Li's potential would determine everyone's fate. Su Dian unconsciously covered her chest with her hand, and her heart beat faster. She always felt that something was wrong. Could this kind of crystal ball really test how much foundation Su Li had left? If it was Su Chinka's lie, Su Dingchuan would definitely take the opportunity to play tricks. Their branch, Su Dian, was not the only one who thought of this. Su Dingxian also looked gloomy and a little confused. Su Chinka was obviously invited by Su Dian. Why didn't he help Su Dian? Was he on the fair side? Su Dingxian thought of this and sneered in his heart. Even if the sun rose from the west, he wouldn't believe that the Grand Elder of the Su family would be stupid and only care about fairness. The middle-aged man in linen stood behind and guarded Su Dian's mother. Seeing this scene, his body gradually tightened like a bow on a string. Su Dian's mother noticed this scene and her heart contracted. She immediately guessed something and looked at the crystal ball. The transparent crystal ball suddenly burst out a burst of black light. Su Chinka's face changed dramatically. He immediately withdrew his hand, and the crystal ball exploded with a boom. The shockwave, which wasn't too violent, caused the tiles to rustle. Su Chinka looked at the pile of debris on the ground with a gloomy expression, but he was at a loss in his heart. This was an ordinary spiritual testing ball modified by himself after he left. Even if Su Li had a great spiritual root, it would never be detected. He wanted to take this opportunity to challenge Su Dian and force the middle-aged man in sackcloth to join the Su family. But how could the crystal ball explode with just a drop of Su Jojo's blood? Su Jojo's bloodline was not simple. Su Chinka felt a chill in his heart, but he didn't show any change on his face. Instead, he took advantage of this and said angrily, "How dare you? Su Dian, you lied." Not only does Su Jojo have no foundation, but she is also contaminated by alien blood, which makes me lose such a treasure. Yes. He was originally worried that the middle-aged man would question the authenticity of the spirit ball, but now that the spirit ball had exploded, all he had to do was show a pained and angry expression, and no one would question the authenticity of the spirit ball anymore. Su Chinka was more than 5,000 years old. He had experienced many ups and downs, so his acting skills were even more superb. Su Dingxian and Su Dian were convinced by Su Li's anger. Su Dingxian smiled immediately. Su Dian's face turned pale. She stepped back subconsciously and stood in front of Su Li to protect her. She bit her lips and kept silent. Only Su Li and the middle-aged man knew that this person was talking nonsense. Su Li naturally knew that she was not injured at all, and the explosion of the spirit testing ball was mostly caused by the blood poison. The middle-aged man in linen used to have a good life. There was no spirit testing ball in the entire Qin Shui circle. How could the Su family, a family with less than 10,000 years of foundation, have it? Ha 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 ha, Su Dian, what else do you have to say now? Su Dingxian felt that he was going to win and became complacent. I have told you that the rules set by the ancestors can't be violated. But you are still young, so you act recklessly and waste the resources of our Su family. Do you really think that the foundation of our Su family can be easily obtained? Su Dain turned a deaf ear to him and looked at Suchinka with deep disappointment in her eyes. She should have seen it clearly. After all, the Su family was rotten to the core. They would do anything to achieve their goals, which was contrary to everything she insisted on. What was the point of staying in such a Su family? She took a deep breath, and her voice changed from respectful to cold. Suchinka, what do you want? Suchinka heard that she called his name directly. He was stunned for a moment, and then his expression became gloomier. Did they have a falling out? Well, Junior, since you don't want to be a member of the Su family, I will fulfill your wish. But this person must stay. He pointed at the middle-aged man in linen. I will not give up anyone who can strengthen our Su family. It is a good deal to lose Su Dain in exchange for a Huashan realm. Su Dain sneered. Suchinka, Uncle Guang is not a member of the Su family. His freedom, before he finished his words, he saw the middle-aged man in linen walk out of his sight and stand in the field. You step back first. Take Su Jiuzhou and Su Xianyun to your mother. Su Dingchuan and Suchinka surrounded the middle-aged man from the left and right. Are you going to fight? Su Dain's expression changed slightly. She knew that she was not qualified to participate in a fight of this level. She hurriedly pulled Su Li to step back, although she didn't know what was the use of stepping back to her mother after a fight in such a small space. Uncle Guang, Su Xianyun covered his chest and stepped back weakly. Looking at the middle-aged man in linen who was not strong, he seemed to see a mountain. When could he take the responsibility of protecting the master and mistress like Uncle Guang? Ho, why do you have to do this, fellow practitioner Ling? Our Su family can provide you with the best environment to practice. You are younger than us, so it is not difficult for you to break through to nature's test. Suchinka said with a smile, a good bird chooses a good tree to nest in. This is the truth since ancient times. With Su Dain, it is extremely difficult for you to break through the shackles. I think you understand it, don't you? The middle-aged man in linen showed a cold smile. I'm very curious. Why do you have to take back an unloyal Huashan realm? People of the Su family are not idiot. You know that cultivating me will only make your Su family one more enemy, but you have to go all the way. Why? Suchinka suddenly laughed. Our Su family has foreign Huashan realm offerings, and there has never been any betrayal. They have all been reformed by our Su family and become the most loyal guardians of our Su family. Reformed? The middle-aged man in linen raised his eyebrows and nodded. I forgot that your Su family has the illusionarizing powder. Hearing this, Suchinka's face changed slightly. You know about the illusionarizing powder. The middle-aged man in linen nodded slightly and waved his hands on both sides. Then two spiritual daggers with strong blood energy suddenly appeared. As soon as the two daggers appeared, a strong evil spirit spread out immediately. The blood waves rolled and illuminated the whole courtyard into a dazzling blood color. At this moment, the ordinary middle-aged man in linen seemed to incarnate into the Shura who killed countless people. His bloody eyes glanced around, and Su Dingxian and others suddenly had goosebumps all over their bodies as if they were electrocuted. They even had a feeling of facing death. Suchinka's and Su Dingchuan's expressions changed greatly. Without saying a word, they shouted and took out their best magic treasures to fight with each other. The middle-aged man in linen pursed his lips and shook his wrist. The two coins turned into two huge black snakes, which opened their bloody mouths and bit them with a disgusting stench. Seeing this, Suchinka and Su Dingchuan didn't panic at all. The magic weapons in their hands flew out and turned into a corpse-yellow demon river and a piece of shroud, rushing to the black snake. The corpse refining sect. The middle-aged man in linen was shocked and immediately changed from attacking to defending. When he saw the floating corpses in the corpse river, He immediately guessed that the Su family was the one who forced him to submit. The two black snakes were like buckets, tightly wrapping around the hemp-robed middle-aged man, allowing the corpse river to wash over them. However, after the corpse river disappeared, the dried corpses in the river left behind shadows, clinging to the scales of the black snakes, emitting green smoke that only came from corrosion. Then, a piece of shroud quickly enlarged and wrapped the middle-aged man tightly together with the shadows of the corpses. Layers of black and yellow corpse water seeped out. The two black snakes immediately howled in pain, and the shadows of the spiritual daggers flickered. "Uncle Guang!" Su Dain exclaimed and was about to rush out, but was held back by her mother. She looked back at her mother angrily, only to see that her mother had burst into tears. It was used after all. It's all a sin. Mom, what are you talking about? Su Dain grasped her mother's hand tightly, but she didn't have the energy to understand her mother's words. She looked at the huge shroud in the courtyard, and her heart was entangled. But what was Su Li doing at this moment? She was lowering her head and looking at her feet. To be precise, she was looking at the tactical matrix under her feet. The tactical matrix was divided into yin and yang, which were two sides of a fan. The pattern on the fan was very familiar to Su Li no matter how she looked at it. She looked thoughtfully at the terrible scene in the field, and then looked up at the isolation tactical matrix that Su Dingchuan had secretly arranged and now appeared. Although it was not as good as the camouflage tactical matrix that she had improved, it was definitely above the 10th grade tactical matrix. The tactical matrix for camouflage should be used carefully after being modified by the demon crystal of Purple Demon. Then, Su Li reached out and took down the reincarnation mirror from her waist, and the little beast in the mirror suddenly became nervous. Obviously, Su Li had discovered it long ago, but she didn't mean to communicate with it, which made it feel uneasy all the time. Now, Su Li showed signs of using it, which made it feel extremely reassured. It was absolutely impossible in the past. But at this moment, there was a sudden sound of cloth tearing in the field, and then it exploded. Before Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka had time to withdraw their magic weapons, the demon river and the shroud were all turned into pieces. They suffered from the backfire, and blood spurted out of their mouths like it was free. Their pneuma quickly weakened. Uncle Guang. Su Dain was surprised. When she saw the middle-aged man in linen who got rid of the shroud, the smile on her face instantly turned into horror. The clothes of the middle-aged man in linen had been corroded, and even his skin and hair had been melted, revealing his red flesh and blood. He looked like a beast that had just been skinned, and he was extremely miserable. In the center of his chest, an ice crystal seemed to have grown on his body, exuding an amazing chill. In just a moment, the whole mountain was covered with a layer of white frost. He staggered and forcibly supported himself. He looked at Su Dingchuan and Su Dain coldly. The Lianxia faction deserves its reputation. You know the Lianxia faction. Su Chenka saw the miserable appearance of the middle-aged man in linen, and calmed down. There are not many people who can get rid of the shroud of the corpse river. Are you really not going to join us? The middle-aged man grinned, and his badly mutilated face looked more horrible. I'm not going to be a Yin corpse yet. That's not up to you. Su Dingchuan snorted coldly. He calmed down and was about to stand up and grab the middle-aged man in linen. The middle-aged man in linen sighed, and gently pressed the ice crystal on his chest. The chill was getting worse. Su Chenka and Su Dain changed their expressions. When they were about to take action, an extremely untimely voice suddenly sounded. Master, if I may be so bold to ask. Chapter 458. Maybe the voice was so calm that it didn't seem to be in a life-and-death crisis. Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka stopped at the same time and looked behind the middle-aged man in linen. Su Chenka's face darkened, and he instinctively felt that something was wrong. But Su Dingchuan didn't think so much. He sneered and said, Fellow practitioner Ling, with your strength, you could have left easily. But you lost your life for these weaklings. How touching! The middle-aged man in linen was silent. Su Dian's face was pale, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. Then Su Li's voice came again. Master, Su Dian couldn't help but feel agitated by such an inappropriate question. She wanted to scold Su Li, but she heard Su Dian's mother sigh before she said anything. Now is not the time to ask these questions. Little girl, what do you want to do? Su Li just stared at Su Dian's mother. Su Dian's mother sighed more deeply and whispered, My surname is… Su Dingchuan couldn't help but get angry when he saw Su Li completely ignored his existence. He strode over and slapped on the tactical matrix barrier that protected everyone. Boom! The violent wind collided with the barrier and made an explosion. But to Su Dingchuan's surprise, the tactical matrix just shook a little, but didn't break. An 11th grade tactical matrix. Su Dingchuan's eyes widened, and a touch of greed flashed through his eyes after the shock. The practitioner surnamed Ling had such a treasure that could block the protective matrix of a practitioner in Huashan realm. Seeing this, Suchinka, who didn't care about it at first, also became serious. He quickly came over and bombarded the barrier with Su Dingchuan without saying anything. Only when the barrier was completely broken could they get the core of the tactical matrix. Suchinka and Su Dingchuan turned around and saw the determination in each other's eyes. For a moment, the continuous bombardment sounded in the isolation tactical matrix. In order to fight for the core of the tactical matrix, the two completely ignored the seriously injured middle-aged man in linen behind them. Seeing this, the middle-aged man in linen's eyes flashed, but he didn't stop them. Instead, he seized the time to heal himself. It was too difficult for him to launch a sneak attack now. Although the two had their backs to him, they were actually paying attention to the back all the time. As long as he showed any threat, they would definitely kill him first and then continue to bombard the tactical matrix. A trace of mockery flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes as he thought of this. If it could be easily broken through, then how could this fan live up to its name? Pear Blossom Yin Yang Fan. Ever since he brought this fan out of the reincarnation mirror, it had undergone an extremely miraculous change, which even he himself did not understand. But the only thing he could be sure of was that, with the strength of these two people, even if they bombarded it for a day and a night, it was absolutely impossible to break this tactical matrix. When the protective matrix was bombarded, Su Dian and others panicked at first. Later, when they found that they couldn't break it in a short time, they felt a little relieved and couldn't help but worry about the fate of Uncle Guang. This kind of time could not be maintained for too long. Uncle Guang would be in danger when Su Dingchuan and Li Yunhong came to their senses. Auntie Su looked at the middle-aged man outside the array and subconsciously gripped her wheelchair tightly. Senior, you still haven't told me your surname. Su Li's voice sounded again. The slap just interrupted Su Li's mother, and she hadn't gotten the answer yet. Auntie Su raised her head subconsciously. When she saw Su Qianxi's absolutely calm face, her heart skipped a beat. Although their faces were completely different, the calm temperament was so similar. At this moment, Auntie Su even thought that she was possessed. How could she think that a little girl less than 200 years old could be that person? Although she knew it was impossible, Auntie Su's tone instinctively became cautious. Your Excellency, why are you so persistent in knowing my name? Su Dian was nervous. When she suddenly heard this sentence from her mother, she couldn't help but turn her head, and her beautiful eyes slightly widened. What did her mother call Su Jojo? Your Excellency? Su Xianyun and others were also astonished. But Su Li seriously considered for a few seconds and replied, because it is related to a very important guess. Guess? What kind of guess? Auntie Su gradually thought of it, and her lips turned pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. She looked at the young and beautiful Su Li and suddenly felt a chill on her back, as if the person in front of her was not an innocent girl, but a devil who was about to choose someone to devour. The feeling of fear and trembling even exceeded that of the two people who were bombarding the tactical matrix. Sure enough, if you are not a family, don't be a family. Do you still have the leisure to chat at this time? Su Dingxian watched the two old ancestors bombarding the tactical matrix. In his opinion, it was only a matter of time before the barrier was broken. Hearing the conversation in the tactical matrix, he laughed and pointed at Auntie Su. Isn't it just a name? What's there to hide? Do you want your precious disciple to be a muddled ghost? Su Jiuzhou, let me tell you that the disabled sitting next to you is Yin Shui. She was a talent of the Yin family in those days. Unfortunately, she became disabled and was thrown away by the Yin family like garbage. If it weren't for my Su family. Su Dingxian. Su Dayin suddenly turned her head, and her eyes were full of killing intent. She shouted sternly, "If I don't die, I will make you die without a burial place." Ha ha ha, Su Dingxian laughed cheerfully. Great! I'd like to see how you, a dying person, can kill me. Yin Shui. Yin Shui, Su Li called him in a low voice. Auntie Su couldn't help but tremble when she heard her murmur. Su Dayin, Su Xianyun and others were all focused on Su Dingxian, so they didn't notice it, but Su Chenka did. His hand paused for a moment. Before he could stop, he saw Su Li suddenly take a step forward. It was this step that let her directly leave the protection range of Lihua Yinyang Fan. Su Jiuzhou. Jiuzhou. Su Dayin and others were shocked. Seeing this scene, Su Dingchuan continued to slap the tactical matrix expressionlessly. He would break the tactical matrix and kill all the people inside even if he was late. Since Su Jiuzhou wanted to die, he didn't mind sending her down in advance. Su Chenka's face was horrified, and he quickly retreated. Bang! The huge palm print slapped on the tactical matrix barrier. Su Dingchuan stared at the empty ground in front of him blankly. Where was she? Su Chenka, since you are here, why are you in a hurry to leave? A faint voice came from behind. Su Dingchuan's scalp was numb. He suddenly looked back, only to see a white and soft fist rapidly enlarging in front of him. He subconsciously wanted to use his magic treasure to resist, but when the palm was about to touch him, he remembered that his magic treasure had been broken by the middle-aged man in linen. The fist print was solid. Boom! Su Dingchuan flew out like a cannonball and slammed into the Lihua Yinyang tactical matrix. His chest collapsed and his eyes almost popped out. Before he could take a breath, he felt the counterforce of the tactical matrix behind him suddenly hit him and directly blasted the flesh on his back into blood foam. Su Dingchuan screamed and lay on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he could only moan. It seemed that he was not far from death. Su Li looked indifferent and withdrew her hand, as if what she did just now was as common as eating and drinking. Su Jiuzhou? This is Su Jiuzhou. Su Dayan's eyes were full of disbelief. She didn't lose all her cultivation at all. No, she was not in Jindan realm. How could a practitioner in Jindan realm easily defeat a practitioner in Huashan realm, even if he was seriously injured? As for Su Xianyun and others, they were completely in a daze and couldn't understand the development of the situation. Were they dreaming? Su Jiuzhou, you hid yourself so well. Su Chenka stood not far away from Su Li with his whole body tensed, as if facing a formidable enemy. He said in a dignified voice, I thought fellow practitioner Ling would be the biggest gain of this trip, but I didn't expect that there would be another one. Your drop of blood broke my spiritual testing ball. I should have known that you were not an ordinary person. Su Li curled her lips slightly. The middle-aged man in linen who was healing beside her frowned. This expression was too similar. Thinking of what happened in Desu City before, he couldn't help but guess. Could this person be the reincarnation of Su Li? That was not right. If Su Li could reincarnate, she should be 1,000 years old now. This woman was clearly less than 200 years old. Suli looked up at the calm sky, and her right hand brushed the surface of the reincarnation mirror on her waist without a trace. She seemed to be sighing. I wanted to wait for Su Zhuanyan to come, but I didn't expect that the person who came would be you. Do you know my brother? Su Chenko was slightly surprised, but he was not scared by himself. Even if this woman was reincarnated, she was less than 200 years old, and definitely couldn't kill him. He glanced at the old man lying in front of Su Dayin, who was covered with blood. Su Dingchuan was just careless, and he was unlucky. He was seriously injured, so he couldn't blame others. Not only do I know him, I am also an acquaintance. Su Li tilted her head. I haven't seen you for a long time. I think your head will be a good gift. Before she finished her words, Su Li's figure had disappeared. Suchinka, who was a little relieved, suddenly changed his face. Without saying a word, he opened his mouth and spat out a round golden ball. He spat out 3 mouthfuls of essence and blood. The golden ball absorbed the essence and immediately wriggled and grew larger, wrapping Suchinka's whole body. At the same time, he didn't care about the pain. He took out an elixir from the ring and was about to put it into his mouth. But at the moment when the elixir was about to enter his mouth, he stopped. You can't eat my things. Suchinka's face was full of horror. His whole body trembled violently, but he did not dare to move. It seemed that as long as he made any abnormal movements, the coldness hanging on his vital parts would instantly penetrate his body and make it collapse. He let the smiling woman in front of him gently take the elixir from his hand. There was still a round golden ball in her hand, beating gently. The life-saving magic ball didn't work. How could it be possible? He had relied on this thing for many years, and the magic ball had saved his life countless times. Why did it fail at this time? You are also in Huashan realm. It's really disappointing that you are so vulnerable, Su Li said slowly. Su Dingchuan, who had just woken up, was so angry that he fainted again. If his magic treasure was broken and he was seriously injured, how could this woman take advantage of him? Suchinka trembled and looked at the woman in front of him. If he knew Su Dingchuan's thoughts, he would definitely not agree. Suddenly, Su Li's face approached him and whispered in his ear, "It's time to return the meat you ate." Chapter 459. Eat his flesh. Su Chen's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of pinholes. The picture that he had suppressed in his heart came out again like a devil. In an instant, a chill rose from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. "You are," Suchinka only said one word, and Su Li's gentle eyes suddenly became sharp. The matrix patterns floating around Suchinka immediately came alive. They drilled into Suchinka's skin in the blink of an eye and turned into a big black net, sealing Suchinka's consciousness. Suchinka couldn't die yet. Besides, Su Li wouldn't be happy if he died so easily. Sealing him temporarily was the best way. After dealing with Suchinka, Su Li glanced at the gloomy sky and walked to Su Dingchuan. After sealing him in the same way, she had time to focus on the middle-aged man in linen. When she walked to the middle-aged man in linen sitting on the ground, Yin Shui's heart was suddenly in her throat, and her nails that grasped the wheelchair turned white. "Mom, what are you hiding from me?" Su Dayin looked at the scene in front of her and was still confused. She didn't understand why Su Jiuzhou suddenly became so unfathomable. And judging from her mother's reaction, did they have a big grudge against Su Jiuzhou? Su Dayin's mother woke up with a start and hurriedly said in a trembling voice, "Dayin, no matter what she asks, you must answer truthfully. Don't hide anything, understand?" "Who is she?" "Su Jiuzhou." Su Dayin felt her mother's fear, and her heart tightened. "You don't know how terrible she is. Dayin, you must remember what I said. If she wants to kill me, you must not stop her. Otherwise, everyone will die." Hearing her mother's nonsense, Su Dayin was in a trance and didn't know what to say. In any case, she couldn't be as gentle as usual. At this moment, The middle-aged man in linen who was healing finally opened his eyes. The physical body of a practitioner of Huashan realm had been transformed several times, and his healing ability was extremely strong. After he cleaned up the corpse water on his body, a thin layer of scab appeared on the surface of his body. Finally, he didn't look bloody. Looking at Su Jiuzhou, the middle-aged man in linen looked very calm. "What did you recognize?" Su Li didn't hide and said, "That fan." The middle-aged man in linen clothes nodded lightly. His eyes were filled with relief and calmness. Besides that, there was actually a trace of gratification of a senior looking at a junior. It seems that after the reincarnation mirror was broken, she did leave something behind. As her successor, you have such a cultivation at such a young age. You didn't disgrace your master's name. Su Li was surprised and didn't speak. The middle-aged man in linen thought that she acquiesced. He grabbed the spiritual dagger beside him and handed it to Su Li. He said calmly, "I am the enemy of your master. Killing me is enough to avenge your master." Su Li took the dagger and felt it was cold. The middle-aged man in linen pointed at Yin Shui on the wheelchair. "She is already disabled and can't live long. Even if you killed her, it would be meaningless." "No. He has already paid the price. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, we wouldn't have entered." Yin Shui screamed and fell off the wheelchair. Before she could finish her sentence, she seemed to have fainted from the shock. Su Dain was so scared that she quickly hugged her mother for a while. After confirming that Yin Shui was just unconscious, she breathed a sigh of relief and turned her head. The complexity in her eyes was indescribable. She would never have thought that the development of the situation would be completely out of her control in just one day, and even involve the grievances of her mother's generation. She vaguely remembered that when she was a child, her mother was also a talent, but now her mother became a disabled person. Was it because of Su Jiuzhou's master? Su Li looked at the calm middle-aged man in linen clothes. Her eyes flashed and she asked with interest, "Should I call you Ling Qinglan or Emo?" Ling Qinglan's face changed slightly, and then he was even more gratified. "The inheritance you got is very complete. You even know my name." Su Li threw the spiritual dagger in her hand. Looking at the gloomy sky above her head, she threw the spiritual dagger to Ling Qinglan's side with a clank. Seeing Ling Qinglan's astonished face, Su Li smiled. "Let's talk somewhere else." Ling Qinglan was slightly stunned. Then he only felt that a black shadow flashed in front of him. Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka, who were sealed, disappeared in place. He didn't see how Su Jiuzhou took them away. But when he thought that she was the successor of that person, he didn't feel strange. An hour later, in a secular restaurant in Desu City, Su Li chose a table of wine and dishes and ordered them. Su Dain, Ling Qinglan, Yin Shui and Su Xianyun sat at the table. Su Xianyun and Su Zheng were dumbfounded. They sat on both sides of Su Li. In addition to the joy of getting their lives back, there were only doubts in their hearts. Who am I? Where am I? Ling Qinglan was very calm. Looking at the extra dishes on the table, nostalgia flashed in his eyes from time to time. Yin Shui's mood was much more stable than before. She finally realized that Su Jiuzhou didn't seem to kill them, at least for now. Perhaps she hasn't found out what happened that year. Yin Shui sighed. She was still full of worries and didn't dare to tell Su Dain too much. Su Dain sat silently beside her mother and looked at Su Jiuzhou. She was waiting. Since her mother didn't want to tell her the truth, she hoped that Su Jiuzhou could tell her. No matter how cruel the truth was, she was willing to accept it. "Don't be nervous. I treat you to a meal because I have something important to ask for your help." Su Li put the dishes on the table and raised her head. Her first words made Yin Shui and Ling Qinglan deeply shocked. "Jiu. Senior Su, please say it. You saved all of our lives this time. No matter what it is, as long as you don't mind, I will definitely help you." Su Zheng didn't see the reaction of Ling Qinglan and Su Zheng. He immediately patted his chest and promised loudly. Su Xianyun secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Su Zheng was a hothead. The originally delicate atmosphere had been stirred up by him, and it actually eased up quite a bit. He didn't understand why she had to come to such a distant secular city to talk in another place. However, even Uncle Guang didn't have any opinion. He didn't dare to ask Su Jiuzhou anyway. Su Li glanced at Su Zheng and chuckled. It's not a big help. I just hope that the head of the second branch can maintain the operation of the second branch as usual and change the current Su family according to your will. Get rid of the bad people and make the second branch into your ideal family. Are you willing to do that? Su Dian's eyes brightened immediately. But she was not a brainless person. She immediately thought of the key and frowned, then Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka. You don't have to worry about them. I will deal with them. They won't cause you any trouble. Su Dian pursed her lips and nodded gently. For a moment, she felt that she saw the bright moon after the rain. But she knew very well that there were no good people in the cultivation circle. She took a slight breath and asked cautiously, Then what's your purpose of doing this? You lurked in the second branch for this, didn't you? Of course. Su Li smiled slightly, but the request is simple. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that the second branch will no longer listen to the main branch of the Su family, but me. Su Dian's eyebrows twitched. Was this simple? She thought about it carefully and found that it was really simple. As long as Su Jiuzhou could solve the two big problems, Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka, she could completely do whatever she wanted without any worries. After coming out of the Tianan Chaos Zone, I was indeed extremely weak for a period of time because of the rules of that space. During this time, I also saw your kindness, which is exactly what I want. I won't interfere with your management of the second branch. Even the transfer of practitioners is pitifully small, so you can rest assured and do it. Su Li smiled and completely dispelled Su Dian's last doubt. After being tricked by Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka, she had no sense of belonging to the Su family at all. Therefore, she agreed very quickly and even showed a smile on her face. Then I will need your help in the future. No problem. Su Li put down a carrier rune in front of Su Dian. You must have guessed that Su Yuanhai is one of my people. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, you can find me or Su Yuanhai through this rune. I understand. Su Dian nodded gently. At this moment, she didn't feel uncomfortable about Su Jiuzhou's previous concealment. Perhaps she began to plan to annex the second branch since she entered it. But without Su Dingchuan and Su Chenka's ruthlessness, she would not have betrayed the Su family so decisively. Everything could only be said to be fate. It was not a bad thing for her to meet Su Jiuzhou, but a great blessing. Of course, if she knew that what Su Li said to her was mostly true, and even the previous contradiction was deliberately caused by Su Li, she would not think like this. Unfortunately, only Su Mu and Su Yang knew this, and they were still acting cautiously in the main branch of the Su family, so they had no chance to sit down and chat with Su Dian. Su Dian put away the jade slip and suddenly thought of something. She asked awkwardly, Then I will call you senior in the future. Su Jiuzhou's real strength was partly exposed, so the relationship between her and her previous master and apprentice naturally became a joke. It was not so easy for her to find a suitable title. Su Li smiled slightly when she heard that. She glanced at Ling Qinglan, who frowned and didn't speak, and said, From now on, call me Mr. That's great, Mr. Su Dian felt that this title was very appropriate. It was like a modest gentleman who was well-read, which made people feel comfortable. Ling Qinglan and Yin Shui were shocked at the same time when they heard this title. After 1,000 years, Ling Qinglan had a feeling of tears when he heard this title again. But everything in front of him had changed. Even her successor could rival a practitioner in Huashan realm. Time flies so fast. Ling Qinglan sighed in his heart. Su Dian, I have some private matters with your mother and fellow practitioner Ling. Su Dain reacted before Su Li finished her words and left with Su Xianyun and Yin Shui. She was not worried about her mother's safety. If Su Jiuzhou wanted to kill someone, none of them could stop her. After Su Dain and the other two left Desu City, Su Li turned her eyes to the two, and finally fixed her eyes on Ling Qinglan. I want to know everything. Chapter 460. All. Ling Qinglan murmured and looked straight at Su Li. You are her successor. You have the qualification. As long as I know it, I will tell you everything. Su Li didn't expose Ling Qinglan's misunderstanding, even now. So far, except for Immortal Tea Plant and Su Yuanhai, only 3 people knew her real identity. Hua Yan didn't need to be mentioned. As for Dongfang Wuxue and Yan Zai, they had been tested by her and were completely under her control. She also had to be cautious about Ling Qinglan and Yin Shui. It was not a bad thing to be misunderstood as her successor. It seemed to be a long process, but in fact, it was just a moment in Su Li's mind. She glanced at the cloudless sky and took back her gaze. She said, Who on earth planned to force my master to enter the reincarnation mirror? Ling Qinglan's pupils shrank slightly, but he was not surprised by Su Li's question. He said in a deep voice, After I came out from there, I never stopped investigating. But I only found that it was related to a holy sect, and I didn't even get the name. A holy sect. Su Li narrowed her eyes. There are too many holy sects in Qinshui's circle. I understand. But no matter which sect it is not simple as long as it is called a holy sect. Ling Qinglan sighed slightly. Su Jiuzhou in front of him was very similar to Su Li in every word and deed. He attributed it to the influence of inheritance, but he always unconsciously regarded her as Su Li. Subconsciously, he showed the respect of subordinate. After I left the Yin family, I went to many big regions to spy on the real situation. There was at least one practitioner in nature's test behind each holy sect. It was too difficult to investigate what happened in those years. After Ling Qinglan finished, Su Li pondered for a moment and continued, You were injured at that time? Ling Qinglan was slightly stunned. He touched the cold crystal on his chest and nodded. After Mo came out, his strength soared. He reached the level of nature's test half in just 200 years. Yin Shui seemed to calm down and added in a low voice, The family had high hopes for him, but he stopped practicing at this time and went to confront the holy sections. He was mistaken as a soul snatcher. Soul snatcher? It was the first time for Su Li to hear this word, and there was an inquiry in her eyes. Yin Shui seemed to have been left with a considerable degree of fear by Su Li because of the encounter in the reincarnation mirror. Seeing Su Li's gaze, Yin Shui couldn't help but tremble slightly. She didn't dare to conceal anything and said, After the reincarnation mirror was broken, many people seemed to be completely changed when they returned to Qinshui's circle. Although the soul and memory of the original body returned after the life ring returned, the heart belonging to the original family force could never come back. Your master. Yin Shui's voice paused, and there was a hint of sincerity in her helplessness. You're really charming. When Ling Qinglan heard this, the memory flashed in his eyes. He smiled faintly and said, Your temperament changed greatly? I don't think so. I just got better. Yin Shui nodded helplessly. She didn't dislike her brother's change. On the contrary, he was overjoyed. Emo, who grew up in the Yin family and was raised as an executioner, would never take the initiative to talk to her. He was extremely heartless. After hundreds of years in the reincarnation mirror, Yin Shui was very grateful that her brother could become a human again. Apart from the fear of Su Li, Yin Shui was very grateful. However, for the Yin family, the original pure Emo became impure, which was a great bad thing. Su Li tilted her head and thought for a moment. She had figured out a lot of things. Leaving the reincarnation mirror alive and leaving dead were two completely different things. The former took away all the emotions and memories, integrated into the soul and occupied a dominant position. The latter completely forgot what happened in the reincarnation mirror, leaving only the practice methods and instincts that she learned in it. Ling Qinglan and Yin Shui should be the former, but Su Li didn't dare to guarantee it. She continued to speak in the tone of her successor. It seems that you and I are almost the same. I found that there is a practitioner of Huashan realm named Su Huanli in the Su family, who has a deep relationship with her. Ling Qinglan nodded in agreement. So, you lurked in the Su family and wanted to find out. Yes. Su Li smiled and looked at Ling Qinglan softly. It's the best if you two can join me. Ling Qinglan was moved by Su Li's invitation. He felt guilty. Now he could meet Su Li's successor, so it was best to investigate together. However, he soon showed hesitation on his face. We can't stay here. Yin Shui looked regretful. Su Jiuzhou, we all understand your wish. But we will only bring you trouble if we stay here. Su Li raised her eyebrows. Because of the Yin family? Yes, but not entirely. Yin Shui hesitated for a moment and seemed to be considering whether to tell the whole story. But when she saw Ling Qinglan's hand always inadvertently covering his chest, she sighed and told him about the past. Our situation was not good. After Mo left the Yin family, I naturally followed him. Later, when I stayed in this region. At that time, Mo's cultivation was very close to passing nature's test, and the Su family flattered him very much. Mo got the news from the old ancestor of the Su family and wanted to leave to investigate in the ghost region. I was worried and insisted on going with him. My husband also went with me. Later, Mo was ambushed and was seriously injured. He tried his best to save me, but my husband... Speaking of this, tears appeared in Yin Shui's eyes and she choked with sobs. My husband is excellent, but it's a pity that I couldn't give him an heir. Then Su Li spoke at the right time. Yin Shui took a deep breath and restrained her emotions. She was an adopted daughter before I entered the reincarnation mirror. It was inconvenient for her to move, so I fostered her in the Su family. Later, she showed her cultivation talent and was put in an important position. After Mo and I escaped back, Mo changed his name to Ling Guang. The outside world thought that Mo died in the ghost region, so there was not much doubt. Su Li was silent. She still had doubts in her heart. Whether it was Yan Zai or Dongfang Wuxue, she could smell a trace of familiar pneuma from them. But the two in front of her didn't. She couldn't ask this question. She couldn't explain where the trace of familiarity came from. If she said it, the claim that she was the successor would be self-defeating. After a long while, she raised her head, stared at Ling Qinglan's eyes and asked, "Which holy sect hurt you?" Ling Qinglan was stunned. The face in his memory overlapped with the girl in front of him again, and an absurd idea came to his mind. It was impossible. Ling Qinglan's voice was very low, as if he was suppressing something. Ghost region, Han sect. When Yin Shui heard these two words, her face turned pale, and she smiled bitterly. Han sect collected a lot of fragments of the reincarnation mirror, so Mo had an idea. But the two grand elders of Han sect both had the cultivation of nature's test. It was very good that we could escape alive. When Su Li heard the fragments of the reincarnation mirror, her eyes flashed, and she looked at Ling Qinglan with scorching eyes. Your injury must be left by Han sect, which is somewhat similar to your injury in the reincarnation mirror. Ling Qinglan slightly pursed his lips. Are there many memories about me in the inheritance you got? Su Li smiled and didn't answer his words. She continued, Han sect is also a holy sect. Even if they are afraid of your revenge, they should have forgotten you since you faked your death for so long. Ling Qinglan's eyes changed slightly, and his originally relaxed body gradually tightened. What do you want to say? What I want to say should be very clear to you. Su Li sighed, but Yin Shui looked at them blankly, and didn't understand why the atmosphere suddenly became tense. You are very smart, but I still can't fully believe you. Ling Qinglan's face became cold, and his hanging hands shook slightly. 2 spiritual daggers reappeared. Yin Shui suddenly panicked. Su Li didn't seem to see his movements. She slightly lowered her eyes and whispered, "Don't kill yourself. You have the fragments of the reincarnation mirror, so let's make a deal." Ling Qinglan's movements paused. What deal? If he didn't have to, he naturally didn't want to do it. He had already seen Su Jiuzhou's strength. In his current physical condition, he might not break the net even if he died. What's more, Yin Shui was still by his side. He already owed his sister too much. Su Li pointed to Ling Qinglan's chest and said, "As long as this ice crystal disappears, Han sect can't sense you, right?" "Yes, but the ice poison of Han sect is not as simple as you think." Ling Qinglan understood what she wanted to do. This ice poison not only has the effect of tracking, but also suppresses my strength. Its structure is extremely complicated. Even if you inherit your master's medical realm, you may not. Before he finished his words, Su Li suddenly reached out and pointed like lightning. A faint ray of lightning flashed. Then Ling Qinglan was shocked to see that the ice crystal, which had been entangled with him for nearly 1,000 years, shattered into powder with a bang. It disappeared. Yin Shui was surprised and happy. She couldn't help but touch Ling Qinglan's chest. After touching the hole, she couldn't stop her tears. Ling Qinglan's whole body was steaming. Without the suppression of the ice crystal, his pneuma quickly recovered. In the blink of an eye, his injury was 80% healed, and the blood scabs fell off one after another. "How did you do it?" He looked at Su Jiuzhou sitting opposite with a trace of disbelief in his eyes. What was that ray of lightning? Although he saw it, he couldn't see its essence. In addition to the inheritance of Su Li, this woman had other adventures. A person of great luck. This word came to Ling Qinglan's mind, and his body shook slightly. A new daughter of luck? Su Li shrugged and didn't answer. Although the divine thunder of earth was only a part of the thunder of tranquility, it also contained a trace of the thunder of tranquility to eliminate demons. No matter how complicated the structure of the ice poison of the ghost region was, its essence was just a crystal of ghost energy. A ray of thunder of tranquility was enough to cure it. The younger generation will surpass the older. Ling Qinglan looked at Su Li and sighed. He took out the bag with the fragments from the universe ring. Su Li took it and counted it and smiled. At this moment. Chapter 461. Rumble. A thunder suddenly sounded. The clear sky was covered with dark clouds in the blink of an eye. People walking on the street were scared and hurried back home. How could it rain in such a bad weather? Mom, go and collect the clothes. The mortals were busy. Ling Qinglan looked up at the gloomy sky and felt a little unusual. I should go. Su Li was calm, as if she didn't see the sky outside. Her voice pulled Ling Qinglan back from his thoughts. I can rest assured that you are behind the second branch of the Su family, right? Ling Qinglan hesitated for a moment and nodded gently. 10 years. Su Li tapped the table with her knuckles, got up, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only a sentence echoed in the nothingness. Within 10 years, no matter what I find, I will go to Yushu sect to seek justice. I think you should know what to prepare. Ling Qinglan frowned slightly. 10 years was too short for a cultivator. What could he prepare? M.O. Yin Shui's voice changed a little. Although Ling Qinglan said that he didn't use the name EMO, she still habitually called him M.O. What? Ling Qinglan turned his head and saw Yin Shui pointing to the clear sky outside. She said in a trembling voice, "The dark clouds are gone." Ling Qinglan's expression changed instantly. In the desolate mountains and rivers, Su Li looked solemn. She ran the all-spirits tactics to restrain her pneuma and flew with all her strength. In the blink of an eye, she left the afterimage far behind. She didn't dare to use the slightest power of Jindan realm. She only ran with her physical body, but she still felt uneasy. There was a faint roar in the sky. Su Li looked up and could vaguely see a purple arc running in the clouds. She was targeted. A cold light flashed in her eyes. The mortals in the secular city had a strong pneuma, which could slightly cover her unique pneuma. She just helped Ling Qinglan to solve the ice poison, but nature's punishment immediately found it. I have to save the means I prepared for Zisha. All kinds of thoughts flashed through her mind. She rushed to the black stone forest without caring about being exposed. One thunder and one person, one chasing and the other fleeing, made a lot of noise and soon attracted the attention of many practitioners. After Su Li ran into the black stone forest, she sensed at least a dozen pneumas following her. Seeing the camp of the sixth branch of the Su family from afar, Su Li's eyes flashed. She suddenly stopped and a trace of soul power flowed on the surface. Then she calmly walked to the mine of the camp. The dozen or so cultivators following behind were stunned when they saw their target suddenly disappear. Then, they sped up and approached the camp of the Su family's sixth branch. In the main tent, Su Jinan was worried about how to fool the demon crystals. Suddenly, he sensed that a large number of practitioners were approaching. His face changed slightly and he led people to meet them. However, he could not sense that Su Li passed by him and entered the blocked mine. She walks easily to the dead-end road where the three forks appeared last time. She takes out the core of the big tactical matrix transformed by purple demon crystal and prints it gently. The familiar intersection appears again, but this time there are not three roads, but only one. Seeing the faint purple light on the wall, Su Li narrowed her eyes and walked along the passage to the deepest cold pool. Senior. Before she finished her words, all the snakes attached to the cave fell into the pool like dumplings. The dense twisting snake tails made people's scalp numb. Su Li's expression remained unchanged. She tried to make her voice softer. Senior. Many snakes fell on the ground with their teeth and claws bared, but none of them dared to approach Su Li. Since the last time Su Li spoke wildly here, they seemed to have a kind of emotion called fear for Su Li. They were too cowardly. Splash. The water of the ice-blue cold pool tumbled violently. Zisha's breathtakingly beautiful face appeared again. But this time there was no smile on her face, only anger. You are really bold to hide from nature's punishment and come to my place. Su Li smiled slightly. At least when I am still useful, your anger is not enough to overcome your reason and let you kill me. This is the best refuge. Hearing this, Zisha's vertical snake eyes were very cold. It seems that I have to find someone else to help me. There is not enough time. Su Li shook her head and sighed. She still looked relaxed. Nature's punishment is outside now. No matter who takes action, there is a possibility of exposure. It is better to let those people outside take the blame and let me have a look. If I have enough experience, I may be able to help you buy more time. Zisha's angry face slightly stagnated, and she became silent. Su Li was suspected of quibbling, but what she said was not unreasonable. You should be glad. Although I appreciate you very much, I don't like disobedient children. If there is not enough time, I will definitely consider changing someone else. Zisha's expression eased. She gently waved her slender arm in the nothingness, and the scene of the outside world was reflected in the nothingness. Nature's punishment is not as simple as you think. These weaklings can't hold on for a quarter of an hour. Su Li stared at the scene in the nothingness seriously. Her physique determined that she was destined to deal with nature's punishment all her life. It was naturally good to have the opportunity to observe nature's punishment. There is one more entrance to the alien region in the Jojo region. The awareness of natural law is the weakest, and it can't see through the demon cave that I built by myself. You don't have to worry about being discovered here. Zisha pointed at the practitioners who were looking up in the image. These people are unlucky. If nature's punishment can't find the target, it will be angry. Before Zisha finished her words, a purple lightning as thick as a finger struck down from the sky, and the practitioners who were looking up were instantly smashed into charcoal. Su Li's eyes were fixed, and her eyes flashed with uncertainty. But she hid it well, and Zi Sha didn't see it. The divinity in the lightning seems to be somewhat similar to the divine thunder of earth. Su Li wanted to ask Black Lotus, but Zi Sha was beside her, so Black Lotus didn't dare to show up. This matter could only wait until it was safe. When Su Li was thinking, several more thunderbolts struck down from the sky, and the disciples of the Su family's camp had already scattered. Su Jinan had no time to care about other things at this moment, and he ran away desperately. More than a dozen practitioners who chased after Su Li also scattered like birds and beasts after 4 or 5 of them died unluckily. Nature's punishment didn't mean to stop, and it continued to bombard the Su family's camp. For a moment the earth and stones collapsed, and even the surrounding black fog was split a lot, and the visibility was improved a lot. Boom! 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 Earth-shattering thunders resounded in his ears. Su Jinan gritted his teeth and fled, but his heart was full of despair. Since the tea party for immortals, his luck seemed to have been eaten by something, and it went downhill rapidly. It showed that the disappearance of the demon crystal was discovered by the old ancestor. Before he could think of a way, nature's punishment inexplicably split the mountain and razed the whole camp to the ground. Nature's punishment was a legendary existence. As long as there was nature's punishment, it was either a practitioner in nature's punishment or an extremely powerful treasure that came into being. There was no practitioner in nature's punishment in the Jojo region. Su Jinan could guarantee that within a day, his mine would be overcrowded. If he didn't escape, he would definitely be in the hands of those mighty figures, and could neither live nor die. I don't know anything. What's wrong with the mine? Su Jinan fled in grief and indignation, and his tears were about to fall down. He couldn't stay in the Jojo region any longer, and he had to leave immediately. After half a day, the thunders resounding through the black stone forest finally stopped. After leaving a bottomless pit in the camp of the 6th branch, the dark clouds dispersed, and the sky became clear again, as if nothing had happened. Su Li breathed a sigh of relief, but the seriousness in her eyes didn't lessen. Even if she tried her best to figure out the power of nature's punishment, it was not as shocking as seeing it with her own eyes. Her preparation was far from enough. Fortunately, she still had time after this accident. You can go now. Zi Sha waved her hand to take back the image. The cave shook slightly and a passage was extended. Think about it carefully. Next time, you will be the one standing under nature's punishment. Su Li nodded silently and walked away. She didn't know how long she had walked in the dark cave. When Su Li came out of the cave, she was already outside the black stone forest. Looking at the flowing light in the sky constantly flying to the black stone forest, Su Li restrained her pneuma and revealed an ugly smile. For the sake of her great undertaking of metamorphosis, this great demon was really taking great care of her. The news of nature's punishment in the black stone forest quickly spread throughout the Jojo region. On the 2nd day after Su Li left, the entire black stone forest was bustling. But all this had nothing to do with Su Li. At this moment, she was in the adytum in the back mountain of an ice sect, looking at the 2 practitioners of Huashan realm who were sealed on the ground, with some helplessness in her eyes. If I can't control their souls, can't I reach the perfect nature soul? Of course. Black Lotus rushed out and said angrily, even if these 2 practitioners of Huashan realm were forcibly promoted with the help of their families, their souls must have been transformed and reached the nature soul realm. If you want to control them, there are 2 ways. First, your soul must break through the nature soul realm and reach the void soul realm in nature's test. Speaking of this, Black Lotus rolled his eyes. You are in Jindan realm, but your soul has reached the perfect nature soul realm. Even I have never seen such a freak like you. It is unrealistic to say that you can break through the void soul realm. As for the second way, you have to make a breakthrough in the soul tactics. But you only got the first level of the soul tactics, and it seems impossible to get the second level. You don't have it here? Suli suddenly asked. Black Lotus's eyes widened and he almost choked. That's the treasure of the Moongazer school. I want to learn from it, but the Moongazer school suppresses the spirit too much. I can't steal it even if I want to. I see. Suli suddenly understood and looked at Black Lotus meaningfully. Did you get rich by stealing practice methods in ancient times? Black Lotus was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by stealing? Could a cultivator's business be called stealing? I took it above board. Looking at Black Lotus's sophistry, Suli suddenly had a further understanding of his shamelessness. She twisted the Black Lotus ring, and her eyes suddenly flashed. Maybe there is a third way. Chapter 462. The Third Way. Black Lotus's eyes widened. He could only think of two ways. Could Suli think of other solutions? Suli ignored Black Lotus's question. She touched the universe ring with her fingertips and took out a white porcelain bottle. Black Lotus's expression changed slightly when he saw it. Illusionarizing powder. But how can it be enough? Su Yuanhai only had half of the illusionarizing powder, which was not enough for one person, not to mention there were two on the ground. Suli shook her head with her eyes shining. What do you think if I combine the illusionarizing powder with the soul tactics? Black Lotus was dumbfounded. He simulated the feasibility of Su Li's method in his mind. After a while, he said in surprise, the illusionarizing powder can disperse a lot of memories and weaken their souls. Maybe it works. Let's have a try. Suli never liked to procrastinate. She unplugged the bottle stopper and fed them half of the illusionarizing powder respectively. Then she used the soul tactics to make memories. 4 hours later, Su Li's face was slightly pale, but she wore a smile. Su Dingchuan and Su Chenke were cautious. They stood in front of Su Li like loyal servants and saluted at the same time. Greetings, Master. Black Lotus looked at them with joy. You really made it. You are a genius. Su Dingchuan and Su Chenke were both surprised to see Black Lotus. But their absolute loyalty to Su Li in their memory restrained their curiosity and kept them respectful and silent. Su Li pondered for a moment and ordered them, you two go back to the main branch of the Su family. Before Su Dingchuan goes back, find a suitable reason to kill Su Dingxian in the dungeon of the second branch and make it clear that he supports Su dying. Su Dingchuan heard it and said respectfully, Su Dingxian deserves to die for offending Master. Yes, Master. Su Li's eyes flickered slightly. When she was compiling the memory for Su Dingxian, she found that Su Dingchuan and Su Dingxian were biological brothers. Su Dingchuan always doted on his younger brother. So, what he said now was sincere. Even if I encountered the illusory memory powder, I would still be in danger. For the time being, Su Li didn't have a good way to deal with such a strange medicine as the illusionarizing powder. She could only suppress her thoughts for the time being and continued to instruct Su Chenke, after you go back to the head branch, take care of Su Yang and Su Mu secretly, but don't expose the relationship between you and me. In addition, pay attention to the actions of your Su family at all times and report to me secretly. Understand? I understand. Su Chenke bowed submissively. Everything about Su Li's past in his memory had been washed away, leaving only absolute loyalty to Su Li. In that case, the two of you can go back. Remember to hide yourself and don't let anyone see you. Hearing this, Su Chenke and Su Li bowed again, and then quickly turned around and left the adytum. With their cultivation at the early stage of Huashan realm, it was easy for them to return to the Su family without being noticed. Su Li squinted her eyes, but there was not much joy in her eyes after she laid 2 more traps. There was an absolute problem in front of him that needed to be resolved urgently. Black Lotus, when can we go to the place you mentioned? Su Li suddenly said, which startled Black Lotus. Then he looked embarrassed. Your current strength is still too low. Su Li raised her eyebrows and said coldly, Do you think I can survive nature's punishment in 5 months? Black Lotus's face darkened. Impossible. That is nature's punishment. You can't survive even the weakest consciousness. Then what are you hesitating for? Su Li frowned. I don't believe that there is no secret method to deal with nature's punishment in the territory of your ghost clan. Even if I can only get 1 or 2 moves, it will increase the odds of winning. Then, what if I can't come back? Black Lotus's voice was a little trembling. Su Li grinned. If I really can't come back, I just die a few months earlier. What's the difference? After I die, I don't care about the flood. She had no choice at all. The coercion of the mighty demon was like a sharp sword hanging over her head, which could fall at any time. The appearance of the great demon had disrupted her plan, but at the same time, it had increased her chances of success. Of course, all this was based on the condition that she could successfully escape nature's punishment. Black Lotus was sad and murmured, Why did I follow you, a lunatic? In the reincarnation mirror, you are obviously a wise man who devises strategies. Why do you do things according to your whims when you come to Qingshui's circle? That's different. Su Li shook her head and sighed. The forces of the 2 worlds were not at the same level at all. If she played tricks in Qingshui's circle, she would have died long ago. Anyway, let's take a gamble. Get ready. 10 days later, we will go in. A sharp light flashed in Su Li's eyes. She pushed the door and called Hua Yan, Yan Zai and others. She also released Dongfang Wuxue, who was still re-practicing. I will leave for a few months. During this period, you guys will pay attention to the sect and the Su family. I have subdued 2 practitioners in Huashan realm of the Su family. You should be well informed. If there is anything urgent, don't wait for me. Hua Yan can make the decision. Hearing Su Li's words, Hua Yan nodded, and Yan Zai and Dongfang Wuxue agreed at the same time. It was just a few months. No one thought that Su Li would be in danger. In their hearts, Mr. had always been mysterious and unfathomable. His strength was unfathomable. What could possibly stop Mr.? Only Hua Yan felt that Su Li was a little strange today. But when she thought that Su Li had never lied to her, she felt at ease. After giving orders to the 3, Su Li went to accompany Jin Ing for half a day. Lvu had been with Su Li for the longest time, but it was only a few years. No matter how much his strength improved, it was limited. Su Li asked him to protect Jin Ing and practice peacefully. After a period of quiet practice, his strength had made great progress. Although he had not broken through Yuanying realm, he was not far from it. Night fell. After Jin Ing fell asleep, Su Li rushed to the 7th branch of the Su family overnight. She talked with Su Yuanhai and Su Yuxing all night. In the morning, she appeared in the 2nd branch of the Su family and called Su Dain and others for a secret talk. At noon, Su Li breathed a sigh of relief. Facing the huge sun, she squinted her eyes. She had a lot of power in her hands. She could do some things without doing it herself, such as subduing the 25 sects that ranked the bottom. In the ordinary 25 sects, there will not be more than 2 practitioners of Huashan realm in one sect. Ling Qinglan alone is enough. With this thought flashing in her mind, Su Li smiled slightly and left. As soon as her pneuma went away, Ling Qinglan opened his eyes. The pneuma in his body boiled for a moment and suddenly exploded. The horrible pneuma instantly spread all over his body. "Mo. Your cultivation." Yin Shui sat in a wheelchair and was surprised. Ling Qinglan nodded gently and said simply, "I have recovered a little. I have reached the Huashan realm. It is not a problem for me to deal with practitioners in the half-step of nature's test. If I want, I can at least conquer half of the 25 sects when Su Jojo is away." As he said, he looked at the direction where Su Li left, "But it is not enough to take our physical bodies. Yin Shui bit her lip and nodded gently. Ling Qinglan's cultivation was not in the half-step of nature's test as she said before, but the real nature's test. She looked in the direction of Ling Qinglan with a complicated expression in her eyes. They had concealed a lot of things from Su Li before. For example, they did not mention the so-called physical body. Do you really believe that she is the successor of Su Li? I don't know. Except for the two old monsters, no one knew what happened to Su Li at that time. But the scene intercepted by the Yin family should be true. Hearing this, Yin Shui immediately thought of the scene where the spirit of the reincarnation mirror swallowed Su Li in the world of ice and snow. In that dangerous situation, did Su Li really have time to leave the inheritance? Ling Qinglan sighed softly. No matter what Su Jiuzhou's purpose is, she detoxified my cold poison, so I will help her. At least what she is doing now seems to be revenge for Su Li. Speaking of this, his eyes were full of coldness. Since my cultivation has not recovered, I can't calculate the total score. Then I will collect some interest first. Yin Shui's heart trembled slightly. She clenched the armrest and was silent for a while. Then she plucked up her courage and gritted her teeth. How can we fight alone? Why don't we find hierarch? Shut up. Ling Qinglan's face suddenly changed, and his tone became gloomy. He whispered, "He is not hierarch. He doesn't deserve it." When the reincarnation mirror was broken, everyone disappeared without a trace. He searched for many years, but only one person's whereabouts was always clear, and even fixed there. Shengtian Shrine. Evil Emperor. But 500 years ago, he went to Shengtian Shrine to ask for an audience, but he was kicked out before he even entered the gate. He still remembered the indifferent and heartless face under the gate of Shengtian Shrine. If you come again, don't blame me for killing you regardless of the old friendship. Taking a deep breath, Ling Qinglan barely calmed down his boiling anger, and his tone calmed down. I know what I'm doing. He didn't tell anyone about his experience in Shengtian Shrine, including Yin Shui. At this moment, Su Li came to the ghost region through the transmission matrix alone. This place used to be the core area of the ghost clan, but now it has become a place where ghost practitioners run amok. It's similar to the hometown of LVU. It's really degrading except for the architectural style. The cities, villages, and sects in the ghost region were similar to those in the Jiuzhou region. It was not as ghostly as Su Li imagined. However, the level of cultivation here was not comparable to that in Jiuzhou region. Cultivators in Zhuji realm were as lowly as nonentities, far less respected than those in Jiuzhou region. Practitioners in Jindan realm were also common, at most worth a second glance. Only practitioners in Yuanying realm were highly respected and were the backbone of the entire ghost region. The place you mentioned is here? Su Li walked slowly to the street of a cultivation city. Looking at the bustling market, she was suspicious. This place was not as dangerous as Black Lotus said. Did she go the wrong way? Little Su Li, how can you doubt my senses? Seeing the suspicion in Su Li's eyes, Black Lotus was furious. I have worked so hard to guide you all the way, but in the end I have to be doubted by you. It's really annoying. Black Lotus vented his anger for a moment, and his eyes met Su Li's cold eyes. Suddenly, he shivered and his voice subconsciously weakened. It's just 300 meters ahead. The sense mark is very clear. There is absolutely no mistake. Chapter 463. Su Li raised her eyebrows and moved forward as he said. Black Lotus sighed and felt sorry for himself. Black Lotus, oh Black Lotus, why are you so cowardly? You've lost all the face of the ancient supreme treasure. After 100 meters, Su Li looked at the courtyard wall in front of her, and then looked up at the plaque of Duan Mansion, hanging in the center of the courtyard wall. She couldn't help but fall into meditation. The entrance to the ancestral land of the Ghost Clan is now in a private mansion. You ghost practitioners of the human clan are really ignorant. Black Lotus was surprised and said, but the royal family of the ghost clan was indeed surnamed Duan, and this place is also called Duan Mansion. It's really a coincidence. The ghost clan had been extinct. Even if there were orphans in the past, they were all killed by the human clan. This Duan Mansion dared to mix among the ghost practitioners of the human clan, so it couldn't be a member of the ghost clan. He didn't smell the breath of the ghost clan, so he said it was a coincidence. Suli didn't say anything. She walked to the front of the Duan Mansion and saw the notice for seeking medical help posted in front of the door. She immediately smiled. She was worried that there was no suitable reason to sneak in. It was really a good opportunity. Opening the ancestral land of the ghost clan would certainly make a big noise. Even if Black Lotus helped to suppress the scope, at least the practitioners in this city could definitely sense it. She and Black Lotus both wanted to enter the ancestral land, so it was a good way to let the people of the Duan family guard the entrance. Hey, little Suli, it's just a big region. Why do you become so principled? It's not like you. In my opinion, you can directly control the old ancestor of the Duan family and let him guard the entrance. There is no reason. Black Lotus shook his head and said. He was used to Su Li's cruelty and mercilessness. So, he was not used to seeing Su Li act like this. Su Li glanced at him and tore down the notice for seeking medical help. There were enemies everywhere in the Jojo region. The ghost clan was not, even if she had remembered the name of Han's sect. The two disciples guarding in front of the Duan Mansion changed their faces slightly when they saw Su Li tear down the notice. One of them went in to report, and soon a large group of people came out. The leading middle-aged man wore a dark brown robe. He had a thin face and an extraordinary temperament. When he saw that Su Li was so young and her bone age was less than 200 years, he frowned slightly. However, he didn't reveal his intention and still greeted him with a sincere face. I'm Duan Rong. Young friend, you have taken down the proclamation of our Duan's mansion. Are you a medical expert? Su Li's eyes were indifferent. She didn't look at other members of the Duan family. She just stared at Duan Rong and said, "Where is the patient?" Seeing that she was so cold and arrogant, Duan Rong felt more confident. He quickly made a gesture and stepped aside, saying, "The patient is my daughter. Doctor, come with me." Su Li nodded. When she was about to step into the gate of the Duan family, she heard a sharp voice inside the door. "Wait!" Su Li narrowed her eyes and stopped. She saw a gorgeous woman in luxurious clothes coming out of the house. Her beautiful face was mean and her lips were extremely thin. It was obvious that she was not to be trifled with. Seeing Su Li's young and even somewhat childish face, the woman couldn't help but snort. "Eldest brother, you are really desperate. This silly little girl is less than 200 years old. At first glance, you know that she is an ignorant and incompetent person who comes to swindle food and drink. You actually put aside your family affairs to welcome her in person. How silly you are!" The woman's words were reasonable. Duan Rong was stunned. Before he hesitated, he saw that Su Li flashed and disappeared. So fast. He was shocked. When he looked up, he saw that Su Li had already pinched the gorgeous woman's neck. Su Li's tone was as calm as ever. "I don't need others to tell me what to do. If it weren't for the thing I want in your Duan family, do you think you can still stand here and talk to me alive?" Ahem! The gorgeous woman desperately grasped Su Li's hand and wanted to break it off. But Su Li's seemingly slender hand pinched her neck like an iron hoop and didn't move at all. "My cultivation of Jindan realm has been suppressed. How is it possible? Let me go. My Duan family is the first family in Nanli City. You will die if you offend me." The gorgeous woman was furious and struggled crazily. Su Li's eyes were always cold, and she gradually tightened her grip. When the feeling of suffocation and death approached, the gorgeous woman suddenly came to her senses. Finally, fear appeared in her eyes. Let me go. I dare not talk nonsense. Duan Rong woke up with a start. When he saw that his sister was about to be pinched to death by Su Li, he finally reacted. He rushed to Su Li and pleaded, "Fellow practitioner, please calm down. My sister has always been outspoken and brainless. When I get back, I will discipline and punish her properly." Su Li glanced at him and saw his sincere expression. She loosened her grip and let the gorgeous woman collapse to the ground. "Your cultivation is good, but your temperament is so gentle. It is rare." As Su Li said, she clapped her hands and stepped over the gorgeous woman. "I won't argue with a retard. Take me to see your daughter." Duan Rong was overjoyed and hurriedly led the way. Su Li's cultivation made him more confident in her ability to treat his daughter. Ahem! The gorgeous woman coughed violently for a long time. When the blood on her face faded, her breath calmed down. She glanced at the direction where Su Li left with resentment, got up and ran in the other direction of the Duan mansion. At this moment, Su Li came to an exquisitely decorated room under the guidance of Duan Rong. The pink gauze curtain fluttered in the wind. Su Li glanced over the maids in the room and fell on the bed in the inner room. A girl who looked no more than 12 or 13 years old was sleeping quietly. A dignified woman with a sad face sat on the edge of the bed. Her cultivation was not weak, which was at the late stage of yuanying realm. "Madam, I brought the doctor." Duan Rong walked in. Su Li felt strange. The cultivation of the head of the Duan family was just at the early stage of yuanying realm. How could his wife's cultivation be higher than his? "Doctor?" the dignified woman said in surprise. When she saw Su Li, a trace of suspicion flashed through her eyes. "That's right. Don't underestimate Dr. Su just because she looks young. She was able to restrain Yurong with just one hand." Hearing her husband's words, the dignified woman looked a little relaxed. It was common sense that doctors did not have high martial arts. It was good enough for them to restrain a practitioner in Jindan realm. She hesitated for a moment and bowed to Su Li. "My daughter's injury is tricky. The doctors in Nanli City are at a loss. Please take care of her." "It doesn't matter. Let me have a look." Su Li waved her hand and glanced at Duan Rong, who looked normal. Then she walked to the bed and sat down. She gently put her hand on the girl's wrist. The condition of the girl's body immediately appeared in her mind. She learned from Qi Xianqing in the reincarnation mirror. Now her medical skills and poison skills combined with the memory in Qing Shui Circle had been upgraded to a higher level. The dignified woman saw that Su Li had no other unusual movements, and her tense mind was slightly relaxed. Although she was suspicious of Su Li's origin, she did not dare to disturb Su Li's treatment of her daughter. After a while, Su Li loosened her hand and opened her eyes to look at the dignified woman. She said in a flat voice, "Your daughter's foundation was affected by her carelessness in practice. Besides, your daughter's body is weak. It's really tricky." Although Duan Rong wanted to make every possible effort, when he heard Su Li's judgment at this moment, his slightly floating heart couldn't help but sink. The dignified woman looked at her daughter lying on the bed, and the love in her eyes almost overflowed. She grasped her heart tightly and asked nervously, "Your diagnosis and treatment speed is several times faster than other doctors. Your medical skills are extraordinary. Even you can't do anything?" "There is a way," Su Li said slowly. The eyes of Duan Rong and his wife instantly lit up at the same time. Su Li smiled slightly and turned to Duan Rong. "Next, I will use a secret method to treat your daughter's injury. It's inconvenient for male practitioners to watch. Head of the Duan family, can you leave? Madam can stay, but you can't disturb me." "Of course." Duan Rong was overjoyed when he heard this. He hurriedly stepped back and said while retreating, "Doctor, you can do whatever you want. I will guard outside the door. If you need anything else, just let me know at any time." "You are welcome, head of the family." After Duan Rong left the room, he immediately lost his sense of the inside of the room. He frowned slightly. Although Madame's cultivation was only in Jindan realm, if Dr. Su really had bad intentions, she could still resist for a moment to warn him. Thinking of this, Duan Rong immediately called the guards of the family to guard the whole room, for fear that someone would disturb the room. Su Li saw Duan Rong's action in her divine awareness and was not surprised. She raised her head and stared at the dignified woman with a pair of clear eyes. She couldn't help but wonder, why is Dr. Su staring at me? Su Li curled her lips slightly and said thoughtfully, "It seems that head of the Duan family doesn't know Madame's real cultivation, right?" As soon as Su Li said this, the dignified woman's expression suddenly changed. She immediately flashed in front of her daughter to protect her. Before she had time to move, Su Li showed a gentle smile. "Madam, don't be impatient. I am not your enemy. Otherwise, I only need to deliberately expose your cultivation in front of your husband, and it will be enough to make you lose your foothold in the Duan family." The dignified woman looked slightly gloomy. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Who are you?" Su Li still smiled and didn't answer the dignified woman's question. Instead, she said calmly, "As soon as I entered the room, I smelled a special smell. I thought it was the ghost energy of the ghost region, which made me a little uncomfortable. But when I approached Madame, I found that the smell came from you and the little girl on the bed. Madame is from the ghost clan, right?" The dignified woman wanted to keep calm, but when she heard the last sentence of Su Li, she couldn't help showing a look of horror on her face. She took a deep breath and reluctantly replied, "Your Excellency, you are the first person to recognize my identity. Could it be that Your Excellency has seen other ghost clan?" Obviously, this sentence meant that she acquiesced. "Although you want to integrate into the human clan, it's a pity that your daughter inherited your bloodline. The ghost clan can't practice the martial arts of the human clan. Your daughter's injury must be caused by this, right?" The dignified woman had lost her temper because of Su Li's words. She simply relaxed and sighed, "What you said is right." Su Li chuckled softly. Black Lotus couldn't help but roll his eyes in the ring space. She was just a living girl of the ghost clan and a descendant with extremely impure bloodline. Why was she so excited? Chapter 464. I haven't seen other members of the ghost clan, but it's not difficult for me to recognize you. Su Li gave an ambiguous answer. Her fingers brushed the smooth forehead of the little girl on the bed, and she said in a subtle tone, "It's very easy for me to cure your daughter, but I need you to promise me one thing. You really come here with a purpose." The dignified woman was nervous and hesitated for a moment. Seeing her daughter frowning from time to time, she gritted her teeth and said, "Go ahead." Su Li saw her reaction, and a memory flashed in her mind. Her eyes softened a little, and she said in a flat tone, "Madam, is there a dry well in the backyard of the Duan mansion?" The dignified woman obviously didn't expect that Su Li would suddenly change the topic. She was stunned for a moment, and then she said in surprise, "There is indeed a dry well in front of the ancestral temple. It seems to be very old, and everyone in the city knows it. Many people in the family have also gone there to investigate, but they didn't find anything. Are you?" "Madam, you guess too much." Su Li smiled and narrowed her eyes with perfect radiance. The dignified woman heard the warning from her, and immediately shut up. After a while, she changed the topic and said, "What do you want me to do?" Su Li's eyes flashed, and she said, "I want to enter the dry well. In addition to the cooperation of the Duan family, maybe I also need you to guard outside. When I enter the well, no one is allowed to enter. With your strength, it should be very easy." The dignified woman opened her mouth slightly and said in surprise, "Only so many requirements?" Su Li smiled and nodded without saying anything. The dignified woman suddenly relaxed and said confidently, "With my secret help, my husband has completely controlled the Duan mansion. The dry well has been explored thoroughly by the Duan family. You won't encounter any resistance at all if you want to enter the dry well. As long as you can cure my daughter, during the time when you enter the well, I will stay by the well and guard it. It's a deal. It's a deal. An hour later, Su Li opened the door and saw Duan Rong, who was anxiously waiting at the door. Duan Rong was stunned when he saw Su Li appear. It was only an hour. Could it be, sir, my daughter? Duan Rong couldn't help but use the honorific title. Su Li smiled and turned slightly. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Head of the Duan family, please go in and have a look. Duan Rong immediately got excited. Regardless of anything else, he stepped into the room quickly. Then a girl's clear voice sounded in the room like that of an oriole. Father! Do-er is awake. Madam. God bless you, this is great. Duan Rong choked with sobs as he spoke. Su Li stood at the door and didn't disturb them. She turned around and asked the butler of the Duan family to arrange a rest for her. A moment later, in the rear hall of the Duan family, Duan Rong and his wife led their daughter over. Duan Rong's eyes were still a little red. It could be seen that he loved his daughter very much. The youngest daughter of the Duan family was named Duan Yuan, and her nickname was Do. When she saw Su Li, who was sitting in the armchair in the back hall and resting with her eyes closed, she rolled her big black eyes and walked quickly to Su Li in accordance with her parents' instructions. Then she knelt down and said crisply, "Thank you for saving my life, Dr. Su. My parents said that if you hadn't helped me, my life would have been in danger. Do will remember this kindness in his heart and will never forget it." Su Li opened her eyes and chuckled. She reached out and helped the little girl up. Then she looked up and said, "You are so polite. We just have a fair deal." "Dr. Su, you are wrong." Duan Rong waved his hand and said seriously, "This matter may not be worth mentioning for you, but it is a great favor for me and my wife. Madam has already told me your request. Although our Duan family has been rooted here for thousands of years, it is recorded in the family classics that the dry well doesn't belong to our Duan family. If you want to go in, our Duan family will never stop you, and we will send someone to meet you at the mouth of the well. If you need anything, just tell us." "You are really forthright, head of the Duan family." Su Li praised and shook her head with a smile. "I don't have any other request. I just hope that I won't bring you any trouble when I enter the dry well." "It's no trouble at all. Dr. Su, come with me. I will take you to the ancestral temple." Duan Rong was gentle, but he acted decisively. In less than half an hour, Su Li had already stood in front of the gate of the ancestral temple of the Duan family and saw the dry well overgrown with weeds. According to the ancestors, the well has been abandoned for thousands of years, but the mouth of the well is still there. "Maybe there is something extraordinary about it," Duan Rong explained, but he didn't think that Su Li could find anything. According to Madam's description, Su Li was a wandering doctor who liked strange things and wandered around. Her medical skills were extremely excellent. It was a great blessing for his daughter to meet such a highly skilled doctor to treat her. Hearing Duan Rong's words, Su Li walked to the well and pulled away the thick yellow weeds. The edge of the mouth of the well came into view. There might have been meaningful patterns and words on it, but after the baptism of time, there was only a bare stone surface left. The entrance of the ancestral land is so damaged. It seems that no one has entered the ancestral land for thousands of years. Black Lotus screamed in the ring. Su Li turned a deaf ear to him and didn't go down the well immediately. Instead, she turned to Duan Rong and said with a smile, "After all, this is the ancestral temple of your mansion. It is disrespectful for me to go down the well rashly. Can I go to the ancestral temple and burn a stick of incense to express my apology?" When Duan Rong heard this, the discomfort in his heart immediately disappeared. He said with a smile on his face, "Dr. Su, you are so considerate. In this way I can explain it to my ancestors. I'll order someone to prepare it. Duan Rong turned and left. Only Su Li and the dignified woman were left in the ancestral temple. The atmosphere was a little stagnant. Su Li looked at the dignified woman, who was a little nervous, and asked with a smile, "May I know your name?" The dignified woman forced a smile. "My surname is also Duan. We are from the same family." Su Li nodded and didn't continue to ask. She turned to look at the dense plaques in the ancestral temple. Hearing this, Black Lotus couldn't help thinking, this half-human half-ghost baby is also surnamed Duan. Is she the offspring of the royal family of Ghost Clan and Human Clan? Tut-tut. After tens of thousands of years, her bloodline is so mixed that I can't recognize whether she is a descendant of the royal family. Well. Hearing Black Lotus's words, Su Li's eyes flashed. When she was about to continue to ask something, Duan Rong hurried in with an incense cup. She immediately gave up the idea. Even if Madame Duan was really a descendant of the royal family of Ghost Clan, it had nothing to do with her. It was better to avoid trouble. At least, she didn't want to get into trouble before she reached her goal. Under the gaze of Duan Rong and his wife, Su Li picked up 3 sticks of incense and lit them. Then she put them into the incense burner. Her movements were rigorous and smooth. After finishing this step, Su Li didn't think more. She walked to the dry well and opened the gap between the withered grass. Then she jumped into the well alone and soon disappeared from the sight of Duan Rong and his wife. Although there is a different world in this well, there is nothing special. I think Dr. Su will come back in a few days. Madam, let's go. We will come back in 2 days. Duan Rong said, but the dignified woman shook her head. I want to stay here and pray for Do. Duan Rong was slightly stunned, and then he was moved. Madam, you are so considerate. I will send someone to arrange it. After Su Li jumped into the well, she quickly landed. It was dark at the bottom of the well, and no light shone in. Although Su Li saw clearly with her divine awareness, she still took out a lamp to light and held it in her hand according to Black Lotus's request. The entrance to the ancestral land is deep here, but the entrance can't be sensed by divine awareness. It must be observed with the naked eye. Take a good look. I am a spiritual body, so I can at most point the way for you, but I don't have eyes to help you see. Su Li nodded gently and followed the wet passage slowly. She heard the sound of dripping water occasionally, but no other sound came. It seemed that she was isolated from the world. The entrance to the ancestral land. Is it like a gate? Su Li thought secretly. The spiritual stone lamp in her hand was lit with celestial stones, which illuminated the surrounding area of about 10 feet. It was the width of the passage, so she didn't have to stay in one place for too long. Several hours passed in the blink of an eye. Su Li came to the end of the passage, but she didn't find anything. Although the underground space was strangely large, as Duan Rong said, there was nothing special about it. Su Li took a breath slightly and looked very calm. There was a reason why the entrance to the ancestral land could be hidden for thousands of years. It was normal that she couldn't find it at the first try. Next, Su Li continued to search back and forth, not letting go of any clues. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. Su Li stopped and sat on a bare stone, with helplessness in her eyes. She still didn't find the entrance to the ancestral land. Black Lotus said that the pneuma in this area was so strong that she could definitely see something extraordinary with the naked eye. She searched every corner and confirmed it again and again, but still found nothing. Even so, Su Li didn't mean to give up. After a short rest, Su Li's exhausted mind recovered. She was about to get up and continue to search. Suddenly, she stopped and looked up. At this moment, her pupils suddenly shrank and her back was numb. The passage was so high that it could accommodate 3 or 4 people, so Su Li only saw darkness when she looked up occasionally. But it was different this time. When she looked up, she vaguely saw the outline of a large cave with the naked eye. When she spread her divine awareness, she saw a wall. Black Lotus, Su Li whispered in her heart. Black Lotus immediately rushed out of the ring and looked up excitedly. After his spiritual body sensed the bare wall, he became more excited. What do you see? Suli tiptoed and wanted to fly up, but was stopped by Black Lotus. She could only condense her soul into her eyes and try to see the outline clearly. The realm of perfect nature soul was indeed extraordinary. After she condensed all the power of her soul into her eyes, the outline suddenly became clear in her field of vision. In an instant, Suli's face changed, and she had goosebumps. That is a coffin. Chapter 465. Coffin? Black Lotus's expression changed. The Ghost Clan won't use this thing to put it after death. Only the human clan will have it. Which ancient powerful figure of the human clan does it belong to? Did the coffin of the human clan block the entrance to the ancestral land of the Ghost Clan? Suli's eyes flickered. She hesitated for a moment and tiptoed to the side of the coffin with the help of the wall. Suli didn't use genuine energy during the whole process. In order to save the little girl of the Duan family, she had to use the isolation tactical matrix modified by the demon crystal. There were many more cracks on the tactical matrix plate. She had to save as much as possible. Black Lotus couldn't see the sarcophagus, so he could only watch Suli's movements uneasily. Until Suli stopped and there was no danger, he was slightly relieved. But he still didn't dare to relax his vigilance and continued to warn Suli, "Be careful." Suli nodded slightly. She grasped the wall with one hand and slowly approached the end of the coffin. After getting close, Suli saw the whole picture of the coffin. It was a sarcophagus, covered with dust and extremely dirty. The stone slab of the coffin was missing and inlaid upside down on the top of the stone wall. It was empty and there was no horrible existence as she imagined. No one. Suli calmed down a little and hooked one foot into the cave on the top of the stone wall. She pushed away the thick layer of cobwebs and carefully cleaned around the sarcophagus. Finally, she saw a line of small words at the bottom of the sarcophagus. Great Emperor of Hatred 10,000. Foundation, Eternal Sleep. The handwriting was so worn that Suli could barely recognize some of it. She thought to herself, the Great Emperor with the word hatred in his name? Black Lotus, was there such a practitioner in the ancient human clan who was called the Great Emperor? Black Lotus rolled his eyes. There were many great emperors of the ancient human clan. Those who had the word hatred in their name couldn't be counted with two hands. This sarcophagus is seriously damaged. Who knows which great emperor it is? Black Lotus couldn't answer, so Suli didn't force him. She continued to clean the sarcophagus, trying to find other clues. Perhaps she used too much strength. When she cleaned the dust at the bottom of the sarcophagus suddenly cracked, and two finger holes were poked out. What? Black Lotus was dumbfounded when he heard the voice. He broke out in a cold sweat. Why did you break the coffin of a mighty figure? If this great emperor is still alive, we'll be in trouble. Suli was also stunned. She didn't feel how hard she used. How could the sarcophagus be broken? Although she had never seen the material of this stone coffin before, it was definitely not something that could be easily shaken with just her physical body. Furthermore, she had no intention of deliberately destroying it. Thinking of this, Suli suddenly thought of something, and her eyes suddenly changed. Without saying anything, she enlarged the hole along the finger hole. Black Lotus was almost frightened when he saw Suli's action. Suli, do you want to die? This is the coffin of your Motherf King Human King. Motherf King Human King. Do you know what cultivation state that person is at? That is. Silence. Suli scolded coldly. Black Lotus was scolded and calmed down for a moment. He finally saw a clue and his eyes changed. This is. Kacha kacha, the sound of the stone shell cracking kept coming from her hands. Suli's movements were very fast. In less than 10 minutes, she expanded the hole to the extent that one person could enter. Sure enough, Suli straightened up and felt the ancient pneuma escaping from the hole. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I felt strange just now. No matter how exaggerated the shape of the coffin is, the bottom must be flat. The bottom of this sarcophagus is attached to the top of the cave, showing an arc. It turns out that there is a gap. It's just that as time passed, a thin layer of stone covered it. The pneuma of the ancestral land is more intense. Black Lotus transmitted the sound. Although he couldn't see the sarcophagus or the hole and could only hear the sound, it didn't prevent him from being excited. The real entrance must be inside. Suli answered softly. Without hesitation, she flashed into the stone cave, and the entire underground stone well was quiet. Time passed very fast. More than half a month had passed in the blink of an eye. In the ancestral temple of the Duan family, a dignified woman knelt on the futon and softly chanted Buddhist scriptures. But she glanced at the dry well from time to time with a little worry in her eyes. It had been so long, but the mysterious Dr. Su had not come out yet. She couldn't help but sigh softly. A few days ago, Duan Rong came to have a look in the well. She persuaded him for a long time to stop everyone. But Duan Rong looked at her in a strange way. Next time, if I continue to stop him, I will have to expose my cultivation. The dignified woman was worried and subconsciously exerted force. The string broke and the Buddha beads fell on the ground. She hurriedly got up to pick them up, but she was more worried. This was not a good sign. Eldest brother, I've already said that Dr. Su is definitely up to no good. At this moment, in the front hall of the Duan family, all the 8 chairs were occupied. It was crowded and lively. Duan Rong sat in the seat of honor and looked at his sister, who was standing in the center of the hall and talking nonsense. He looked gloomy and said in a calm tone, Duan Yi, do you really think that you can do whatever you want in this family with the will left by my mother? Duan Yi's face was slightly pale. She was in awe of her brother who made the family the first in Nanli City in just a few decades. But when she thought that she was almost strangled to death at the gate, she couldn't swallow it. Brother, I also know that Do-er has just recovered. It's not good to make trouble at this time. But the dry well was left by the ancestors of our Duan family. If the opportunity in it is taken by an outsider, will you be willing? Duan Rong's face became more and more gloomy and livid as he listened. If the hall were not full of representatives of the major families, he would have slapped the B***tch, who could not accomplish anything but spoiled everything. Head of the Duan family, anger is harmful to your health. Since an outsider can be allowed to explore the dry well in the ancestral temple of your Duan family, why do you stop us? That's right. Is our status lower than that of a practitioner in Jindan realm? We are here. Head of the Duan family won't let us go back empty-handed, right? I am invited by your sister. If you drive us away directly, it will be too unreasonable. The heads of the families in Nanli City spoke one after another as if they had discussed it. They were extremely united and joined hands to put pressure on Duan Rong. Duan Rong's face darkened, but he did not dare to refuse directly. The Duan family was the first family in Nanli City. But when these people united, even 2 Duan families couldn't resist them. Duan Yi finally came to her senses when she saw this, and panic appeared in her eyes. She led a wolf into the house. What did she do that was so stupid? Duan Rong took a deep breath and tried to keep his voice from trembling because of grievance and anger. Everyone, the invitation was made by Duan Yi herself. I didn't know it. As soon as he said that, the young cultivator sitting at the first seat on the right raised his eyebrows and said with a smile that was not a smile, This young miss of the Duan clan gathered all of us here because of your name, Patriarch Duan. Duan Yi was stunned and said in astonishment, I didn't slap. A slap was slapped on her face. Duan Yi screamed and fell to the ground with blood spurting out. She couldn't say the second half of the sentence. We are discussing important matters with the head of the Duan family. How can you speak? The old man sitting on the other side said indifferently and withdrew his palm. He turned his head and stared at Duan Rong with a pair of turbid old eyes. After a moment of silence, he suddenly smiled and said, I think the head of the Duan family is a reasonable person and won't let us down. Duan Rong took a deep breath and said in a cold tone, Heads of the Duan family, you can follow me to the ancestral shrine. But if the people you bring also want to go in, don't blame me for disregarding the friendship between us and breaking off the pretense of cordiality with you. Seeing that Duan Rong relented, the atmosphere suddenly relaxed. The young practitioner laughed and said, Don't worry, head of the Duan family. We, the heads of the Duan family, have been promoted by our strength. No one will hold us back. What the head of the Ying family said is reasonable. Head of the Duan family, don't worry. Duan Rong looked at the group of bandits in front of him with a smile, and his heart was burning with anger. But for the survival of the Duan family, he restrained himself and continued to warn, if the exploration of the dry well is still fruitless, please don't disturb the peace of the Duan family in the future. Although there are many mysterious legends in the ghost region, if the Duan family really has treasures, why do we have to be so miserable? That's all I have to say. You take care. After saying this, Duan Rong snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves and left. He didn't look at Duan Yi from beginning to end. It was not the first time that Duan Yi made a big mistake. Every time, he was soft-hearted and forgave his sister. But this time, Duan Yi almost ruined his family. He was forced to compromise under many circumstances, and even was forced to let others enter the ancestral shrine. He didn't want such a sister. Duan Yi, get out of Nanli City tomorrow, or don't blame me for being ruthless. After saying this, Duan Rong left the hall with the heads of the Duan family, leaving Duan Yi kneeling there in a daze. She didn't even wipe the blood on the corner of her mouth. At the same time, the dignified woman praying in the ancestral shrine also sensed something. She stood up from the futon with a slightly changed expression. It was her husband's breath, and 12 breaths of Yuanying realm. 12 people. Did all the famous masters in Nanli City come here? The dignified woman's face immediately darkened. Even if she was at the late stage of Yuanying realm, she had no chance of winning in the face of 12 masters at the same level. Moreover, 3 of them had cultivations that were not much weaker than hers. She used to frighten them with the means of the Ghost Clan and made them mistakenly believe that there was an ancestor in the Duan family. But if she put it on the table, she would have no chance of winning. Dr. Su, I'm afraid that I have to break my promise. The dignified woman felt bitter in her heart. She looked up and saw Duan Rong walking into the ancestral shrine with a group of heads with a gloomy face. Seeing the dignified woman, the heads of the Duan family were also stunned. My wife is praying for my daughter. Sorry to make you laugh. Duan Rong explained expressionlessly. Everyone immediately breathed a sigh of relief and praised Madame Duan. But their minds had completely flown to the dry well, and their eyes were full of eagerness. Duan Rong snorted and pointed to the dry well. You have been here 300 years ago. I don't need to go into the well myself, do I? Head of the Duan family is a man of great righteousness. You don't have to bother with such a trivial matter. The old man who slapped Duan Yi laughed. He was also bold. He jumped down and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, the others jumped into the well one after another without waiting for Duan Rong's order. The dignified woman bit her lips and couldn't help but worry about Su Li. She took a step forward subconsciously, but her figure was suddenly blocked by her husband. Madam, you have done enough. Duan Rong turned around. His eyes were as clear as water, reflecting the deep helplessness. Doe has heard it. Even if you keep your promise, it is useless. The dignified woman's heart trembled. You, I know. Duan Rong sighed softly and grasped the dignified woman's hand. How can I marry a wife like you? After this, no matter what the consequences are, as long as we are still alive, I don't want to be the head of the Duan family anymore. You and I will find a paradise with Do-er and live a good life, no matter you are a human or a ghost clan. The dignified woman trembled slightly, and her eyes were filled with tears. But when she saw her husband's face full of helplessness after being deceived, she couldn't help but smile. You know, but you didn't tell me. I have been living in fear all these years. Alas, if Dr. Su doesn't come back, I will set up a monument for her. I feel guilty. Chapter 466. In the dark tunnel, Su Li walked silently. There was nothing but dead silence around her. The moment she entered the tunnel, the world seemed to turn upside down, as if the stone wall under her feet was the real ground, so that she didn't need to struggle to maintain her figure. The sarcophagus behind her was out of sight. Su Li didn't move fast, but she still arrived at the end of the tunnel after a quarter of an hour. There was another dry well in front of her, which was exactly the same as the one in the ancestral hall of the Duan family in both style and pattern. The only difference was that this dry well was more delicate. The pattern was clearly visible, and there was a strange red color like blood vessels. The faint blood color flickered on Su Li's calm face. The dark well seemed to be filled with black ink, and the psychic awareness couldn't penetrate it. The silent horror spread. Su Li, what did you see? Black Lotus couldn't help but transmit the sound. Since Su Li entered here, he couldn't sense anything. He was in a panic because of the darkness. Su Li's eyes were calm. Looking at the bloody dry well in front of her, she responded in her heart, Black Lotus, how long is the golden body of the ancient great emperor? Black Lotus scratched his head in confusion, but he still replied, The so-called great emperor is an immortal of your human clan who has reached Deshang realm. I really didn't notice the length of the golden body, but in my memory, all the golden bodies of the human clan's great emperors are shorter than 60 meters. By the way, why do you suddenly ask this? Nothing. Su Li's eyes flashed, but the sarcophagus is too small and the shape is a bit strange. I think it looks like a posture. What posture? Kneeling. Under the ancient well of the ancestral hall, the 12 heads of the 12 families in Nanli City searched separately, and soon the entire underground space was searched. Gone. That Dr. Su is not here. The 12 heads of the 12 families gathered together, and their eyes were shining with greed. The most calm and composed young cultivator also revealed a smile, his eyes flashing with a terrifying light. She didn't go out. That is to say, there are secret passages under the well that we don't know. The young practitioner looked young, but he was actually older than the old man. His cultivation was also the highest among all of them, reaching the peak of the middle stage of Yuanying realm. Mrs. Duan was most afraid of him. The young cultivator's words roused everyone's spirit. Continue to split up and search. Don't let go of any clues. These 12 people were all shrewd and had extraordinary power. Each of them had their own unique method. Under such unprecedented unity, everyone quickly made a new discovery. Come and take a look. The stone chips here seem to be newly peeled off. In the next instant, everyone appeared beside him and stared at the inconspicuous stone fragments on the ground. Peel off. The young man picked up a stone fragment with a pensive look in his eyes. Then, he subconsciously looked up. At the same time, in the darkness, Su Li narrowed her eyes slightly and stepped into the bloody ancient well. Her figure was quickly swallowed by the darkness. The moment her figure disappeared, a layer of frost appeared on the ancient well that was originally flickering with a blood-red light. The layer of frost quickly piled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it had spread along the black tunnel to the back of the sarcophagus. The originally ordinary sarcophagus actually emitted a glimmer of light, which restrained the spread of the frost. countless white light spots poured into the frost, and a piece of extremely complex rune appeared in the nothingness. Although those white spots only appeared for a moment, the light was enough for the residents on the ground to see the scene above. Found it. There is a sarcophagus above. Someone couldn't help but immediately fly up from the front. The sarcophagus immediately had white light spots appear again. But it seemed that because the seal of the frost was too strong, it didn't form any vision before it dissipated. Seeing that there was no danger, the rest of the people couldn't wait any more and flew to the top of the wall. After seeing the sarcophagus, they all showed surprise and observed it carefully. There are words here. Everyone soon found a line of words on the bottom edge of the sarcophagus. Although it was not complete enough, it was enough to make them associate it. The tomb of the great emperor. This is the tomb of the great emperor. It turned out to be the tomb of the great emperor. Ha ha, we are rich. The ancestor of the Duan family turned out to be an immortal. At this moment, even the usually calm young master couldn't help but show excitement on his face. If I can get the treasures in the tomb of the great emperor, won't I also have a chance to become an emperor? For a moment, almost everyone had the same thought. The next moment, they all tacitly looked for the entrance of the tomb. Being hot-blooded, at this moment, no one questioned why the most important sarcophagus was placed outside. Found it, there is a gap here. I saw it too. There is a blue light flashing inside. I don't know what it is. Everyone, be careful. The old man squatted down and wiped the edge of the gap on his forehead. His guess was confirmed. He laughed and said, "It is here. This gap was opened by someone. That Dr. Su is inside. The entrance is behind the sarcophagus. Come, let's work together to open this sarcophagus." When the young cultivator spoke, the rest of the people had already very consciously grabbed the corner of the sarcophagus, ready to go. Haha, with our unity, there is no need to worry about not being able to enter the tomb of the great emperor. 3, 2, 1. The young cultivator grabbed the sarcophagus plate with one hand. His eyes widened and the power of yuanying surged. Rise. Boom. 12 different kinds of power of yuanying filled the sarcophagus in an instant. The decayed sarcophagus, which had been exhausted, instantly turned into stone chips all over the sky. The talisman pattern that had just stabilized in the nothingness also disappeared instantly. The sleeping frost was immediately awakened, showing its fangs like a demon. The 12 powerful masters outside were all terrified. Before they had time to escape, the dense cold air gushed out of the dark passage. In the blink of an eye, thousands of miles were frozen and everything was frozen. "My wife, let's go when you are ready." Duan Rong pushed the door open and smiled warmly. The frost swept over and froze him at the door. The dignified woman raised her head in confusion, and her whole body was instantly covered by frost. "Daddy!" Do-er ran out of the inner room and saw this scene. She froze in horror at this moment. The frost, like an extremely cold demon that escaped from the cage, greedily devoured endlessly. It only took the blink of an eye to freeze the Duan family. Soon, Nanli City fell. The 3 nearby cultivation cities fell, nearly half of the ghost region fell. It shocked the world. The ground trembled slightly. Suli stopped and looked back at the vortex that had disappeared. Something seems to have happened outside. She quickly withdrew her gaze and calmed down. Then she continued to walk to the huge skeleton not far away. "Black Lotus, that thing seems to be attracting me." Suli secretly felt restless in her heart and asked Black Lotus again, "You really don't know what it is?" Black Lotus immediately replied angrily, "How many times have I told you that the physical body of the Ghost Clan is not much different from that of the human clan? Such a big skeleton is definitely not from the Ghost Clan. If you ask me, who should I ask?" Suli nodded and said seriously, "You just said it twice." Black Lotus's face darkened. When he was about to speak, Su Li's voice came again. You seem to be very irritable after entering here. Black Lotus was slightly stunned and fell silent. After a while, he said in a muffled voice, the smell here is very annoying. Why? This is the ancestral land of your ghost clan. I, a human clan, should be the one who hates it. No reason. Don't ask. Black Lotus's shadow lay on the lotus throne in the ring, and a rare trace of sadness flashed through his eyes. Su Li raised her eyebrows and didn't ask any more questions. The huge skeleton didn't seem to be far away, but it took Su Li 3 days to get close to it. There was a great restriction in the ancestral land, so she couldn't fly. She could only hurry on foot. But Su Li was different from Black Lotus. She didn't feel annoyed here. Instead, she felt very comfortable and free. The feeling of being spied on all the time was gone. Su Li looked up at the dark red sky and found that it was very similar to the sky in the Chaos Zone. There seemed to be no living creatures here, and there was no natural law. No matter what kind of demons and ghosts there were, she could fight at will here without worrying about nature's punishment. Su Li narrowed her eyes. This was definitely good news for her. Thinking of this, she gathered her thoughts and stepped into the huge skeleton, approaching the place she sensed in her heart. This huge skeleton of an unknown creature was thousands of meters in size. She couldn't see all of it at a glance. It took Su Li another day to walk from the tail area to the heart area. However, she finally arrived at her destination. Whoosh! Su Li split the valve-like barrier with a sword and stepped into the empty ventricle. She roughly glanced at the dim space, and then immediately fixed her eyes on a fist-sized red crystal full of wrinkles. If I guessed right, this is the monster's heart. I don't know how many years have passed. Its skin and flesh have decayed, and the heart has shrunk like this. But it must be a good thing since it can remain immortal. Black Lotus shook his head and said. Su Li walked closer, and the desire in her heart grew stronger. She always remembered that the talent in her bloodline had not been fully awakened. Since her rebirth in this life, she had only swallowed 1 Yi Ji. Her bloodline had been restless, but it was also very weak. The talent of blood poison was just an uncontrollable accident brought by her breakthrough in cultivation and the body of evil ghost. However, as her soul fell into the original memory in the space of the tea tree and experienced the transformation, many things began to be self-taught. She could even control part of the blood poison. Black Lotus didn't seem to know the existence of that place. Otherwise, he would have guessed it. At the thought of Black Lotus's age, which was enough to compete with Qing Shui's circle, Su Li kept the whole secret in her heart and didn't tell anyone. Little Su Li, what are you waiting for? Put it away quickly. We have to find a way to fight against nature's punishment. Seeing that she still had time to be in a daze, Black Lotus couldn't help but urge. Su Li's eyes flashed, and she grabbed the blood-colored crystal without saying anything. Crack! The surface of the crystal flashed with dense cracks like a spider web, and instantly shattered. At the same time, an ancient consciousness was slowly waking up. Chapter 467. Su Li's body stiffened for a moment and then eased down. This ancient consciousness was very gentle and even made Su Li feel a trace of intimacy. Her instinct told her that there was no danger in this consciousness. She stepped back and let the red smoke float into the nothingness, turning into an old dragon shadow. After the illusory body gradually solidified, the dragon opened its eyes and saw Su Li. How many years have passed? Finally, a junior comes here. The hoarse sound of rubbing bark sounded and fell into Su Li's ears, as if it was settling down for years. The dragon shadow glanced at Su Li, and Su Li suddenly felt a chill on the surface of her body. Then she heard the old voice with some surprise. You are not a member of my ghost clan. Su Li looked at the dragon shadow and replied humbly, I am a member of the ghost clan, but also not a member of the ghost clan. But you don't look like a member of the ghost clan. It seemed that her ambiguous answer made the dragon shadow interested. There was a chuckle in the nothingness, but Suli heard a bit of sadness from it. The ghost clan has declined. Now the juniors can't even recognize me? Suli turned her eyes and didn't answer. Even Black Lotus didn't know what the dragon shadow in front of him was. The authenticity of the dragon shadow's words needed to be discussed. Seeing that Suli didn't respond, the dragon shadow didn't get angry and asked in a gentle voice, "Junior, what year is it in the All Spirits calendar?" As soon as the words came out, both Suli and Black Lotus were shocked. Black Lotus's voice even howled in Suli's ears. "The All Spirits calendar is before the Qingshui calendar. This is an old monster who has lived longer than me. Master, you must be careful." After saying this, Suli immediately sensed that Black Lotus's pneuma retreated into the depths of Black Lotus Ring. Even she could barely sense it. Suli's face was slightly dark, but she didn't dare to neglect the dragon shadow. She held her fists and said respectfully, "Senior, now it is the Qingshui calendar. The All Spirits calendar may be the calendar before the Qingshui calendar, but I don't know the specific calculation." Hearing this, the agile dragon shadow was slightly stagnant and gave an ancient sigh. Suli stood aside quietly and didn't dare to say anything. An old monster who had slept for many years and was completely out of touch with the present. Who knew what its temperament was? She had to be careful. However, she did not sense any danger. It was not a long time. After 2 days, the dragon shadow seemed to cheer up and said, "Junior, you are very special." Suli's eyes changed and the dragon shadow laughed again. "Don't be so nervous. I just want to chat. Maybe I will leave before I finish." Without waiting for Suli's reaction, it looked at Suli strangely and continued, "Your fate is strange. Even in the All Spirits calendar, it is rare. It is a rare fate that goes against nature. Senior truly has discerning eyes." Since she had been seen through, Suli did not deny it. She saluted generously and said, "In today's cultivation circle, it is difficult for me to survive. I can only survive in the place where the natural law is weak. But a few days ago, I was targeted by trouble and had to fight against nature's punishment. Senior is experienced and knowledgeable. Do you have a way to deal with it?" "Heavenly axiom," Dragon Shadow sneered. "That's just a despicable person who only knows how to flatter and eliminate dissidents. How can he be qualified to be called Heavenly Axiom?" Suli narrowed her eyes and was slightly shocked. What did Dragon Shadow mean? Was it possible that Heavenly Axiom was not a consciousness, but a selfish creature that was as emotional as the human clan? "I do have a lot of ways to fight against nature's punishment, but you are too weak to use any of them." Dragon Shadow's words made Suli's heart cold. Then he changed the topic. "However, the nature's punishment I mentioned is the complete consciousness of nature's punishment. If you want to fight against the weak field you mentioned, your cultivation is barely enough. Show me the cultivation technique that you've been practicing." Without hesitation, Suli unlocked All Spirits tactics and displayed Suayu tactic. When the wisp of green light appeared in Suli's palm, Dragon Shadow, who had been calm all the time, was out of breath and set off a gust of wind. In an instant, Suli was blown hundreds of feet away. "Kueyu Palace. You are a disciple of Kueyu Palace." Dragon Shadow's trembling voice resounded through the world, as if he had seen something extremely horrible. Suli pulled out the flying sword and inserted it into the ground. She barely stopped herself and shouted loudly, "Senior, don't panic. I got the practice method by chance. Now there is no such force as Kueyu Palace in Qingshui Circle." It seemed that this sentence worked. Dragon Shadow took a deep breath. When he saw Suli approaching again, he regained his calmness. His ancient voice was full of emotion. "Time is really the most terrible enemy. Someone as strong as Kueyu, halfway through." He still seemed to be afraid of that name. He stopped and looked at Suli. "You are really a lucky person. Not only did you get the legendary practice method, but you also have all spirits tactics. That is also a great secret method. Compared with Kueyu, it is not inferior. You should cherish it. Suli nodded and did not say that she only got the first level. She secretly remembered all spirits tactics in her heart. I thought that the cultivation of Ghost Circle had declined, and I was afraid that you could not meet the standard of practicing the secret method. Well, I will teach you a spell. As Dragon Shadow said, he stretched out his claws to Suli and pointed at her glabella. Suli didn't avoid it. She had seen the movement just now. This old guy could kill her easily. If he wanted to kill her, he didn't need to make so much effort. With a stinging pain between her glabella, a large amount of information poured into her awareness sea. Suli just frowned and concentrated on absorbing the thought from Dragon Shadow. This scene caused Dragon Shadow to be extremely surprised in his heart. He was from the primeval ghost clan, and his soul had been refined to the peak. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to be in deep slumber for a myriad of years without dissipating. But now this junior before him was at most 20 years old, yet he was able to accept his gift without changing his expression. Out of curiosity, he could not help but send out a trace of ghost energy into Suli's body to check. What happened next almost made his dragon eyes pop out of their sockets. The pneuma in Suli's body suddenly woke up after sensing Dragon Shadow's ghost energy. It formed a vortex in her pubic region and swallowed that wisp of ghost energy like a big mouth. Swallowed, Dragon Shadow fell into a sluggish state, and then suddenly thought of something. He was ecstatic. This girl is also from Ghost Clan. The inheritance of Ghost Clan is not cut off, but the original body of this girl is from Human Clan. It's troublesome. Dragon Shadow's expression changed, but finally it was covered with joy. No matter what race she was from, as long as Ghost Clan could leave their inheritance, he did not need to feel guilty. Dragon Shadow thought with relief, but he felt a little regretful. It was easy for someone as old as him to possess Suli's body. After going out, there were 10,000 ways to deal with nature's punishment. But this girl was from the same clan. If he launched the secret method of possession, he would only be swallowed by Suli in vain and give everything he had for hundreds of millions of years to this little girl in front of him. Fortunately, I am not so greedy in my heart. Dragon Shadow secretly rejoiced that it was better to live than to die. Although there was no difference between sleeping here and dying, he just didn't want to die. Maybe one day when the world of Qingshui's circle changed, he could be reborn? Suli did not know what Dragon Shadow was thinking. She only knew that after she woke up, the old guy in front of her looked at her weirdly. "Senior, why do you keep staring at me?" Suli sorted out the information in her mind a little and couldn't help asking. Dragon Shadow coughed and said, "The secret method has been passed on to you. You need to practice it diligently. I see that you have a special constitution and talent that has not been awakened. I will show you a way." After saying that, a road sign appeared in front of Dragon Shadow out of thin air, pointing to the depths of the ancestral land of Ghost Clan. There are many ghosts sealed in this space. Your physique requires you to devour enough ghosts in order to open it. The path that I have pointed out for you can gradually open the path of devouring. You only need 10 years to truly awaken your innate talent. When that time comes, not only will you be unrivaled in the Aurus Core stage, even nascent soul stage cultivators will not be your match. Suli took over the road sign. After a moment of silence, she bowed deeply to Dragon Shadow and said respectfully, "Senior, thank you for showing me the way." Her psychic sense was keen, so she could distinguish the truth in Dragon Shadow's words. Maybe this old guy had some other ideas before, but now he didn't. For a while, Suli couldn't figure out the reason. After saying goodbye to Dragon Shadow, she left the heart room of the skeleton under Dragon Shadow's gratified gaze. After 3 hours of rapid travel, Suli got rid of the skeleton's gaze. She felt relaxed. Black Lotus ring appeared immediately. As the Black Lotus rotated, Black Lotus showed up with a look of fear. You scared me to death. Little Suli, Dragon Shadow is an old monster of all spirits, and he is of the same clan as you. Suli was slightly stunned and blurted out, Body of evil ghost? Yes. Black Lotus nodded and dug out the memory buried for tens of thousands of years in his mind. He said bitterly, the name of the body of evil ghost came after Qin Shui's circle. The body of evil ghost in all spirits calendar had another name, which was known by those who had lived for a long time in Ghost Clan. It was called Prehistoric Ghost Clan. Prehistoric Ghost Clan? Suli's eyes flashed and she thought, if the body of evil ghost is Prehistoric Ghost Clan, what is the extinct Ghost Clan? Black Lotus sighed and said leisurely, I just heard the legend. I don't know whether it is true or not. It is said that the prehistoric Ghost Clan in all spirits calendar was the real Ghost Clan. Those illusory ghosts that were extinct before were just the food raised by the prehistoric Ghost Clan. Suli paused her steps and connected the clues in her mind. No wonder that she needed to devour ghosts to activate her talent. The ghosts mentioned by Dragon Shadow must be Ghost Clan. Suli thought for a moment and then sped up immediately. She followed the road sign and rushed to the first place guided by the road sign. She did not have 10 years to waste here, and her cultivation was not as weak as the Dragon Shadow appeared to be. Although the Dragon Shadow was an ancient existence, it was a remnant soul after all. Coupled with the all-spirits technique, its vision was not very accurate. Therefore, her progress of devouring ghosts must be much faster than what Dragon Shadow said. Thinking of this, Suli arrived at the first place after half a day. Seeing the soul of human clan sealed tightly, she was silent for a moment and then said calmly, Black Lotus, what else are you hiding from me? Chapter 468. Black Lotus looked up and saw Suli's calm face. His heart skipped a beat. What he had been worried about seemed to become a reality at this moment. Talk. Suli spoke again. Her voice was not loud, but it was irresistible to Black Lotus. He struggled for a moment in his heart, but he finally couldn't bear the pressure brought by Suli. He drooped his head and said, The body of evil ghost can devour the Ghost Clan as well as the human clan. Because of your identity as a human clan, I'm afraid. I haven't told you. Why are you afraid of me? Suli showed a meaningful smile. Do you think I will resist and go crazy for the so-called killing of my own clan? Ridiculous. Black Lotus was stunned for a moment. Then he heard Suli snort coldly. She walked to the sealed souls of the human clan and stretched out her hand to pull hard. She released the suction in her body. In an instant, the souls of the human clan were cruelly torn into pieces by the suction and poured into Suli's body, turning into nourishment for the awakening of her talent. After the souls disappeared, Suli took a deep breath and opened her eyes. She looked indifferent, as if she had just done a trivial thing. Don't always figure out some boring things. Instead of wasting time, it's better to help me recall the ancient secret method. We are in the same boat. Hearing Suli's indifferent words, Black Lotus couldn't help but feel cold even though he had experienced thousands of years. It turned out that the bottom line in this little girl's heart had been broken long before he appeared. The real evil circle had no taboo. If Suli really grew up smoothly with his assistance, how big a disaster would it be for Qin Shui's circle when she could destroy a circle with a flip of her hand? Thinking of this, Black Lotus narrowed his eyes and didn't dare to continue to think about it. The following journey was monotonous and extremely boring. At least Suli thought so. Occasionally, the souls of the Ghost Clan or the Human Clan got out of the seal and caused a little trouble for her devouring journey. However, under the suppression of her strength, which was extremely inconsistent with her cultivation, the ghosts and souls sealed in the ancestral land were useless except for taking some more time for Suli. In the eyes of the dragon shadow, the souls of the ghost clan and the human clan are all just the food. No wonder I didn't notice the falsehood in its words. Suli walked along the road sign, and her thoughts turned aimlessly. She recalled many details before. Black Lotus, on the other hand, has a troubled look on his face. He's even hiding something and doesn't want me to enter. I'm afraid it's not all because of strength, but more because of the human race's divine soul. A trace of sarcasm flashed through Suli's eyes. Perhaps there were indeed kind-hearted people in the human race, but unfortunately, the people she encountered were all repulsive. Even though she was a human at heart, she still couldn't identify with other humans. Suddenly, Suli's footsteps stopped. Black Lotus, who was preoccupied, was also awakened. He released his spiritual sense to sense the outside world. This feeling caused it to be completely dazed, and its body started to tremble. It's here? On the high platform between the overlapping mountains and rivers, a decaying gray pavilion stood tall. Although its exterior was damaged in many places, one could vaguely see that it looked like a blooming lotus. Glancing at Black Lotus, Suli tiptoed on the ground, and her body flew up agilely. Like a fluttering willow catkin, she landed on a gray lotus petal. The dust under her feet flew, revealing a pair of dark footprints and a jade-like luster. Black Jade Lotus Pavilion, Black Lotus, could it be that this was your former residence? Suli murmured softly. Black Lotus didn't respond, but she didn't care. She landed in front of the pavilion in the pistil below, pushed open the dusty door, and stepped in without hesitation. What came into view were layers of gray gauze, fluttering in the breeze like white ghosts. Suli glanced over and saw through the structure of the pavilion at a glance. This circular building standing in the center of the pistil seemed to be built by countless concentric circles. Under the cover of the gauze, the pavilion was divided into mutually compatible rings. In the dead space, the thick gauze firmly covered the center of the pavilion, and it couldn't be seen clearly. A cold breath brushed her nose. Suli was expressionless. Her eyes flickered, and she suddenly accelerated her pace. Using her palm as a knife, she split the gauze fluttering in front of her. The illusory knife tore all the gauze in front of her. As the white cloth fell to the ground, Suli's sight suddenly became clear. A throne that seemed to be made of gold came into view, and a skeleton-like figure sat on it. The figure's eyes were sunken and seemed to be flashing with red light. Suli was slightly nervous and took a step forward. The skeleton didn't respond. But she didn't dare to relax. She approached cautiously until she stopped under the throne. She looked up and saw the skeleton's horrible face full of dry skin. Then she breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that the skeleton's eyes were inlaid with unknown blood-colored gems. From a distance it seemed to be still alive. Not everyone can be like the prehistoric ghost clan, who has lived for hundreds of millions of years. Black Lotus murmured with a complex expression. His words were mixed with too many emotions, like nostalgia and relief. Suli stared at the skeleton and had some guesses in her mind, but she didn't ask explicitly. Wait, the bloodstone! She suddenly narrowed her eyes. Under Black Lotus's horrified expression, she stepped onto the throne and dug out the bloodstone from the skeleton's eyes. Suli interrupted Black Lotus before he finished his words. Be quiet. Let me think about it. Seeing Suli's serious face, Black Lotus finally noticed something. His eyes focused on the bloodstone in Suli's hand. He also had a sense of familiarity with it. Where on earth had she seen it? Suli frowned slightly. The first image that came to her mind was the bloodstone in Lin Yanxing's hand in the reincarnation mirror. But later, as she died in the reincarnation mirror, the bloodstone disappeared. The pneuma is very similar, but it is a little different. The time doesn't match. They should not be the same person. Suli denied the idea, and the second image came to her mind. That was little Suli, Why do I feel that the blood-colored gem in your hand is exactly the same as the diamond-shaped bloodstone in your sister's hand? Even the Numa. Black Lotus interrupted at an inappropriate time. Su Li's eyes darkened. She turned over her palm and put away the bloodstone. She said expressionlessly, "There are no ghosts here. Let's go." Then, she had rushed out of the Lotus Pavilion before Black Lotus responded. The road sign flashed and she went away in an instant. In the next few months, Su Li kept killing and devouring, and the pneuma of the body of evil ghost became more and more obvious. If she was exposed to the natural law at this time, nature's punishment would fall in less than half a breath. But she hadn't learned the secret method that the dragon shadow taught her. Her mind was a little confused. "Little Su Li, maybe the truth is not what you think. Let's talk." "There is nothing to talk about." Su Li's eyes were cold, and a red light flashed in her eyes. The advanced ghost in her hand was immediately crushed. Countless black spots went into her body, making her pneuma darker and deeper. Even Black Lotus didn't dare to look directly at her at this moment. It might be influenced by Su Li's physique. But for Black Lotus, the current mood of his master was what he was most afraid of. But no matter how he persuaded, Su Li always forcibly interrupted him. Inevitably, he thought of the scene that Su Li almost died with him in order to force him to show up. It can't go on like this. Anxiety appeared in Black Lotus's eyes. He was truly worried sick for his current master. Back in the day, every master that had obtained him had been incomparably respectful to him and would grant his every request. Especially the skeleton that had died on the golden throne, who had bowed to him and called him ancestor. Every time he thought of the past and compared it with Su Li's attitude at the moment, Black Lotus felt extremely bitter in his heart. But he still had to persuade her. "Little master, even if you have been escaping, you have to face it after you get out of here. You don't want everything you have planned in this life to be ruined by Huayan, do you?" As soon as Black Lotus's voice fell, Su Li's calm eyes fluctuated, and her swift body suddenly stopped. "Who is the person on the golden throne?" Su Li's tone was calm, but Black Lotus sensed the chill from it. He breathed a sigh of relief in his heart and didn't dare to hide it. He hurriedly said, "That is my last master." Su Li's eyes flashed. "The chieftain of the Ghost Clan?" "No." Black Lotus's tone was a little mocking. He was just a weapon used by the Ghost Clan to fight. The Ghost Clan used him, but they were also extremely afraid of him. He was so kind that he didn't choose to live alone at the last moment of the Ghost Clan's extinction. The body of the last generation of evil ghost, Su Li raised her head expressionlessly and looked at the gloomy sky of the mysterious realm of the ancestral land. Her narrow and long eyes revealed ruthlessness. "I have no interest in the history of your Ghost Clan. Tell me the origin of the Bloodstone." Black Lotus sighed. "It's also a long story." "It doesn't matter." Su Li pointed between her eyebrows and closed her eyes. The shadow behind her suddenly moved and turned into a huge phantom like a giant skeleton in the blink of an eye. "I still need 100,000 ghosts to activate my talent. I have enough time to listen to you slowly." Black Lotus looked up and saw the huge phantom, which was not inferior to the dragon shadow skeleton, and his eyelids twitched. This was Su Li's evil ghost. When Su Li focused on devouring nourishment to awaken the talent of evil ghost, the Lord of Xingtian Palace, who was practicing in seclusion in the small mysterious realm of Xingtian Shrine, suddenly opened his eyes, and there was a little surprise in his calm eyes. "Call the Lord of Evil." Soon after his voice came out, the manservant in black waiting outside the door immediately went down the mountain. Not long after, a thin and tall black figure appeared at the door. Ling Li came in and said in a cold tone as usual, "The Tianjiao battle is about to start, and I have killed all the people who should be killed. Did the Lord of Xingtian Palace accidentally miss some people?" Seeing this, the Lord of Xingtian Palace laughed. "It seems that your injury has healed. Ling Li snorted coldly and did not answer. The lord of Xingtian Palace was not annoyed, but the smile on his face gradually disappeared. His voice was like a sharp sword, piercing into Ling Li's ears. Take the Lihan sword and go to the ghost's domain. Chapter 469. Ling Li's body was stiff for a moment, and then he relaxed and said calmly, "Did the remaining evil show up?" The lord of Xingtian Palace shook his head slightly. It is said that the ghost region is frozen for tens of thousands of miles. The Lihan tablet vibrates. Something big must have happened. Go and check it out. If the remaining evil doesn't show up, don't expose your identity as the tablet keeper. After that, he waved his wide sleeves. The sword light flashed, and a strange black and red spiritual sword was inserted in front of Ling Li. The blood on the black sword was steaming like a ghost. It was surprisingly harmonious with Ling Li's black robe. This was an evil sword. Ling Li pursed his lips, and a touch of coldness flashed in his eyes. His outstretched hand paused, and finally grasped the sword hilt. In an instant, countless bloodlines came alive from the sword hilt and scrambled into his palm. The familiar and piercing pain didn't make him frown. When the whole sword turned into bloodlines and went into his body, Ling Li raised his eyes and took a deep look at the lord of Xingtian Palace on the high platform. Then he left silently, and his pneuma quickly disappeared in the small mysterious realm of Xingtian Shrine. The palace, which symbolized the pinnacle of power in the cultivation circle, returned to silence again. Uncle Fong, are we really going to Ghost Region? Just the sound of that place scares me. In the hall of an intelligence organization, Su Buwang glanced at the leaving steward, and whispered to the bearded calm young man, "Didn't you say that you would help me find my mother? Although my mother is also a member of Xingtian Shrine, she is just a maid. How can she be interested in the frozen ghost region?" "Maid?" Fang Yuan stopped putting away the jade slip and looked stunned. "Your mother is a maid of Xingtian Shrine? Isn't she?" Su Buwang blinked in confusion. Fang Yuan frowned and didn't answer. In Xingtian Shrine, Su Buwang at this age couldn't be a second person except her son. During this time, he didn't deliberately test Su Buwang. Although this boy survived in Xingtian Shrine, he didn't know much, and what he heard was half-truth, such as now. "Uncle Fang, is it?" Su Buwang looked serious, and Fang Yuan couldn't help but feel nervous. Was his performance too obvious? Could it be that you have some private matters to attend to in Ghost's domain? Su Buwang's eyes were shining, and he showed a considerate smile. "Uncle Fang, if you want to go, just say it directly. Don't beat around the bush. I, Su Buwang, have concerns in my heart. Uncle Fang is not someone who pops out from a crack in a stone. Naturally, you also have concerns. Wherever you go, I will follow." Looking at Su Buwang's shameless appearance, Fang Yuan's eyelids twitched, but he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and did not explain. "Since that's the case, let's go." He stepped out of the attic. Su Buwang glanced at the plaque of Tianyake Attic, hanging on the attic at the entrance of the hall, and immediately followed him. At the same time, Han's sect, of Holy Sect of Ghost Region, spread to all major regions of Qingshui Circle with the help of the Jade Slip for help from Tianyake Attic. The ice demon of the ghost realm is invisible and traceless. It's very likely that it's a great demon that was born naturally in this world. Only soul formation cultivators can resist the cold. The ghost domain is in a terrible situation. I hope everyone can go and help. Within a few days after the news was spread, the teleporting matrices of major regions were immediately overcrowded. Old monsters in Huashan Realm who had not appeared for many years appeared one after another, which was an eye-opener for many casual practitioners. I didn't expect that there are so many warm-hearted people in the cultivation circle. Looking at the unprecedented grand occasion, some people couldn't help but sigh, but they were immediately laughed at by others. Warm-hearted? You are really naive. If it weren't for the ice demon that was born naturally in this world, who would be willing to die? Ice demon is just a demon. What good can it do? How can I know? I only know that this kind of demon spirit that was born naturally in this world is of great use to those with high cultivation. Lingli, who wore a casual practitioner's robe and covered his face, mingled in the crowd of the teleporting matrices. He glanced at the surrounding practitioners. After seeing the team of Xingtian Shrine, he immediately withdrew his gaze. In the next moment, the teleporting matrix was full of spiritual power, and everyone disappeared. In the small mysterious realm of Han's sect of Ghost Region, it was as warm as spring. As the teleportation array flashed, wave after wave of cultivators with high cultivation bases arrived. Uncle Fang, is this the Han sect? Su Buwang looked curiously at the scenery of mountains and rivers in the small mysterious realm, and transmitted the sound in a low voice. It's spring all year round here, and it's not cold at all. Why is it named Han? However, the atmosphere of this sect is much milder than that of Xingtian Shrine, and there is no bloody smell. Fang Yuan did not respond. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and his gaze fell on a mountain opposite the teleporting matrix. There were many familiar disciples of holy sects on it. The four-peak holy sects have all sent people, and the people of Han's sect are entertaining them. Some people whispered around, and many people's eyes fell on the opposite mountain following the guidance. Huangxing Hall, Chu Qingning of Ankuei Valley, Fang Mu of Tianhe sect, Xingtian Shrine. Hey, it's not that person. Is the rumor true? What rumor? Haha, that person has too many enemies. I heard that he killed many talents of Ankuei Valley this time. If he shows up openly, it's hard to guarantee that the Grand Elder of Ankuei Valley will not kill him in person. Many people of Ankuei Valley died, which I heard. Isn't it confirmed that it was done by the evil circle? Why is it related to the evil emperor? I'm not a member of holy sections. How do I know? Isn't the young lord of Tianhe's sect Fang Yuan? Why is his brother Fang Mu leading the team? I heard that he left the sect to travel in his early years, and now there is no news from him. No one knows where he went. Gee, it is said that the evil emperor and Fang Yuan because of that. Shut up. There was a sudden shout in the crowd, and the casual practitioners consciously made way for them. Then they saw a group of disciples dressed in the costumes of Xingtian Shrine coming aggressively. The leader was a female practitioner in red with a delicate face. Her pretty face was full of anger. You dare to offend our Xingtian Shrine. I will tear your mouth. Seeing such a situation, the practitioner was so scared that his face turned pale. At this moment, he even knelt down softly. I am talkative. Please spare my life. But the woman was unmoved. She really sent someone to tear the practitioner's mouth, and his head was almost torn in half from the corner of his mouth. It seemed that he could not survive. The shrill scream echoed in the mountains, and the blood spilled. Most of the people around the originally crowded teleportation matrix were gone in an instant. They didn't dare to stay, for fear of being angered by the people of Xingtian Shrine. Su Buwang was angry and was about to step forward, but he was firmly held by Fang Yuan. It's not suitable to make trouble here. If it is exposed, you and I can't escape. The cold voice poured into his heart, and Su Buwang suddenly woke up with a shudder. Fear flashed in his eyes, and he let Fang Yuan pull him away. He was slightly confused, and he didn't notice that a pair of eyes among casual practitioners were staring at him through the mask. Lingli suppressed the fluctuation of the mask. When he saw Su Buwang and Fang Yuan met together and got along well, his eyes became gentle for a moment, and then returned to coldness and silence. After Su Buwang was pulled into a guest room by Fang Yuan, he looked lost and murmured, "That is Sister Zhuquan. I still remember that she treated me well when I was a child. I didn't expect that she was so cruel and merciless that she wanted to kill me." Fang Yuan looked at Su Buwang with amusement. Su Li did all kinds of things in the reincarnation mirror. In terms of ruthlessness and cunning, Zhu Quan of Xingtian Shrine was nothing. Even Ling Li, the hierarch of Yinma cult at that time, was fooled by her. However, Su Li's ruthlessness was not fighting. Every word and deed had a deep meaning. Even Ling Li, the hierarch of Yinma cult at that time, was fooled by her. If not, how could he be deeply infatuated with her? Even after she married Ling Li, he didn't want to leave. He just wanted to guard her and protect her. After the bloody accident of Holy Spirit, Su Li's soul was scattered. He returned to Qin Shui's circle and Tianhe sect, but everything he saw was gray, as if everything was meaningless. He left the sect to find a way to resurrect Su Li, but he didn't expect to meet Su Buwang. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan looked at Su Buwang more gently. Again, Su Buwang's scalp was numb, and he moved away without a trace. Although this senior, whom he met by chance, not only protected his safety but also guided his cultivation, and didn't overstep his authority in ordinary days, like a close elder, he still felt uncomfortable and even confused. Could it be that the cultivators of the outside world are all so amiable and approachable? He thought so at first, but he followed Fang Yuan to travel all over the country. What he met and heard was that no one could be so sincere to a strange junior. They were all full of wariness and deception. Maybe God has mercy on me and compensates me for the grievances I suffered in Xingtian Shrine. If I can always follow Uncle Fang, it's not bad. Su Buwang thought like this, and suddenly felt a vibration outside. A faint chill spread along the nothingness, but Fang Yuan reached out and pinched it out on his fingertip. At the same time, a deep and old voice resounded through Han's sect. Fellow practitioners, the passage of the outside world has been opened, and the chill is strong. Only practitioners above Huashan realm can resist it. Before the voice died away, Su Buwang, who pushed open the window, saw a large wave of people pouring into the huge portal suspended in the nothingness, and a wisp of frightening chill was revealed from it. Su Buwang even had an illusion that he was about to be frozen in an instant. Uncle Fang, how about I stay in Han sect? It's convenient for you to move alone, so I won't trouble you. Su Buwang's face was pale, and he looked back embarrassedly. But he saw Fang Yuan's fingers twisting, and his expression was unprecedentedly solemn. The smile on his face also disappeared. Uncle Fang, what's wrong? You're right. Fang Yuan suddenly stood up, waved his hand, and condensed a sword seal, and slapped it into Su Buwang's glabella. You stay in Han sect to practice, and wait for me to come back. Su Buwang only felt a coolness between his eyebrows. Hearing Fang Yuan's words, he didn't care what was slapped between his eyebrows, and hurriedly said, Uncle Fang, I was just joking. I'll go with you. Don't worry. Xingtian Shrine has no time to manage such a mighty demon in such a realm. As long as you don't mess around in Han sect, no one can do anything to you. Fang Yuan comforted him in a warm voice, but he didn't look relaxed. He stared at the passage and said, The situation is much more complicated than I thought. If you are invaded by the chill, you will be frozen into an ice sculpture in an instant, and I can't save you. How can you find your mother at that time? Hearing Fang Yuan's words, Su Buwang finally understood the power of the ice demon. He shrank his neck and said with some embarrassment, Uncle Fang, you should come back early. Don't offend holy sects rashly. They are not good people. Fang Yuan couldn't help but laugh. Su Buwang's prejudice against holy sects was too great. But when he thought that this child grew up in Xingtian Shrine, he was relieved. Chapter 470. Passing through the passage of the small mysterious realm, Fang Yuan was shocked by the coldness. The originally green ghost region had become a world of ice and snow. In the tranquility of the vast expanse of whiteness, The cold wind whistled past his ears. The strength of this ice demon was more powerful than he imagined. It's so cold. My cultivation is at least in Yuanying realm, but I can feel cold. The ice demon's chill is so terrible. If I knew it, I wouldn't have come here. Many casual practitioners looked horrified and regretted in their hearts. Their eyebrows and hair were quickly covered with a layer of frost. Everyone, if you are not strong enough, you can come to our holy sect to be the vanguard. Our sect can protect you from freezing to death. Our sect also accepts casual practitioners, and their strength is not limited. At the same time, many sects spoke. Many casual practitioners' faces changed, and then they chose to join the holy sect team. They knew that these holy sects just used them as cannon fodder, but if they didn't join, they were likely to freeze to death immediately. So, they had no choice. Ling Li mixed in the casual practitioners and also chose a holy sect team to join. This sect was Fang Yuan's Tianhe sect. He walked to the disciple of the Tianhe sect expressionlessly and showed his cultivation of Yuanying realm. The disciple in charge of the inspection looked a little respectful and invited Ling Li to the third team. There were more than 20 people in this team, all of whom were in Yuanying realm. Although there were several times fewer people than the team in Jindan realm, the survival rate was much higher. This is the amulet given by our sect. As long as you don't lose it, the chill in nature's test will not kill you. Someone sent a jade amulet. Ling Li took it and said, "Thank you," expressionlessly. The relationship between practitioners was delicate. Even the disciples of the same sect were deceiving each other, let alone strangers. Seeing Ling Li's cold attitude, the disciple of the Tianhe sect didn't care and turned away. Ling Li glanced around and found no one came to make trouble. A purple light flashed in his eyes, and he immediately fixed his eyes on Fang Yuan, who had mixed in the team of the Xingtian shrine. Wang didn't come. A trace of undetectable calmness flashed on his face, and he turned his eyes. Fang Yuan frowned and felt that someone was spying on him. But after he vaguely probed, he found nothing. When a fierce gust of cold wind swept past, all the teams seemed to have a tacit understanding, and almost simultaneously set off into the depths of the snowy land. The teams of the Four Peak Saints sects were at the forefront. The snowflakes were blown into snow needles by the cold wind, and when they landed on the sturdy protective arrays, they made tinkling sounds. Some of the protective arrays put up by the smaller sects were actually on the verge of breaking. Those rogue cultivators who were unwilling to join the Glory sect were so scared that their faces turned pale. They immediately left the group and joined the Glory sect. The various sacred sects didn't reject anyone and accepted everyone. In the short span of an hour, everyone had traveled about 500 kilometers, but the group had shrunk from 100 to a dozen. Fourth Elder, what's the result? Yin Xuedong, who was dressed in a light pink palace dress, respectfully followed beside a white-browed old woman and asked softly. The source is 3,000 li northwest. The white-browed old woman put away the compass and said lightly. A map of the ghost domain suddenly appeared in Yin Xuedong's mind, and her beautiful eyes flashed. Near Nanli City. Let's go. Your Highness, if we change our direction, the other three sects will notice it immediately. The black-clothed guard beside her looked embarrassed. Yin Xuedong snorted coldly. Our Huangxing Hall's deduction skill is unique, but the other three sects' deduction skill is not much worse than ours. The specific location will be exposed sooner or later. Offend the other three sects for this time difference. Can you bear such a sin? The black-clothed guard suddenly tightened his body. He bowed his head and said shamefully, Your Highness, you are right. I am not considerate enough. Yin Xuedong glanced at him and called her personal maid. Pass my order. Change the direction and rush to Nanli City at full speed. Yes. Young Lord, Huangxing Hall suddenly moves to the northwest at full speed. In the Black Palace, Chu Qingning teased the huge scorpion climbing on the edge of the pool. When he heard the message, he stopped and the expression on his face returned to normal. He said casually, "The old women of Huangxing Hall have some skills. Keep up with them." "Young lord, if they cheat," the maid, who stood respectfully beside the scorpion pool, couldn't help but stand up. But before she finished speaking, the giant scorpion in the pool suddenly turned into a shadow. It rushed to the edge of the pool in an instant and bit the maid's head off. Clatter! The corpse fell down powerlessly, twitched twice, and then stopped moving. All the other maids standing by the pool showed horror and covered their mouths to prevent themselves from making a sound. Chu Qingning's eyes were gloomy, and he was not as cheerful as in the reincarnation illusion. "No one needs to question my order." When the confidant who came to deliver the message saw this scene, he retreated without any fluctuation in his heart. He had been accustomed to the domineering and bloodthirsty young lord. This maid just received the young lord's favor yesterday. Did she really think that the young lord would treat her differently? "You must be daydreaming." The confidant shook his head and sneered secretly. Then he asked someone to clean up the corpse. Not long after, the blood-stained ground in the summer palace was cleaned to the point that it could be seen as a mirror. There was no trace left. Chu Qingning fiddled with the food in his hand. After a while, he seemed to think of something. He threw the food into the pool, stood up and walked out of the summer palace. In the world of ice and snow, the sun was particularly dazzling, which made Chu Qingning's pale face even paler. Wisps of black lines flashed under his face like a spell. This was the sign of practicing Dark Codex, the most important cultivation method of Ankuei Valley, to the realm of great accomplishment. For thousands of years, there had been countless amazing people in Ankuei Valley, but only he had practiced Dark Codex to the realm of Great Minister. At the moment when he showed the realm of Dark Codex, he automatically became the next master of Ankuei Valley. Unless he died accidentally, otherwise, no one was qualified to compete with him. When the old man who was supervising the team saw Chu Qingning walk into the sun, his face suddenly changed slightly. He hurried over and said, "Young lord, why are you? It doesn't matter. I won't die in the sun for a while." Chu Qingning interrupted him, and his eyes flickered. "Have you found any news about Emperor of Evil?" The old man was slightly stunned and shook his head. This Shengtian Shrine didn't send Emperor of Evil to maintain the scene. Pig brain. Chu Qingning turned hostile and scolded. "How did those talents in the valley die last time? Can't you even think of this?" "You mean?" The old man's face changed. "I will go to confirm the identity of casual practitioners." Seeing him leave in a hurry, Chu Qingning habitually curled his lips, but he was not as simple as before. Instead, he revealed a sense of gloom and evil. "Hierarch, Hierarch, I will kill you even at the cost of human lives. Give the order. Before encountering real danger, try not to let casual practitioners lose their lives. Strengthen the protective tactical matrix by 30%. Since Huangxing Hall and Ankuei Valley have taken action, we will follow them." Fang Mu was dressed in a white robe, and his face was serious and calm. He gave a series of instructions, and the whole Tianhe sect team moved quickly like a precise machine. After redetermining the direction, Fang Mu could take a break and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. A trace of longing and complexity flashed through his eyes. "Eldest brother, has your burden always been so heavy?" In the palace of Xingtian Shrine, Zhuquan stood respectfully beside a beautiful figure. "Miss, I found out that Su Buang, the bastard son of Emperor of Evil, is hiding in Han's sect." Ha! A chuckle came from the red lips of the beautiful figure. "My brother is really an infatuated person. Unfortunately, he has tarnished the bloodline of my Ling family. Wang is becoming less and less lovely and unlikable. Send someone to keep a close eye on him. If this boy dies before the Tianjiao list is reset, my brother will go crazy." Yes, Mississippi, in the blink of an eye, half a month passed. The entire ghost region was covered with ice and snow. There was nothing but dead silence. It was not as dangerous as imagined. Except for a few unlucky teams who encountered the cold storm, and their protective tactical matrix was destroyed and frozen to death, almost all the teams of holy sects were unharmed. At this moment, the sky of the ancestral land of the Ghost Clan was always so dim, and the cold air from the outside world never penetrated in. Crack, crack, crack. A series of breaking sounds sounded from Su Li's hands. In the blink of an eye, the sealed ghosts turned into powder. The shadow behind Su Li took a big breath, and the powder disappeared instantly. At the same time, the shadow's body also grew a little taller. Black Lotus, how many ghosts have I devoured? Su Li continued to fly and asked casually. Black Lotus lay on the lotus throne on the surface of the ring. Looking at the phantom of evil ghosts that almost burst the sky, he couldn't help swallowing and said dryly, "It's more than 90,000. If I devour another 9,000, I can awaken." Su Li nodded as usual and didn't answer. She continued to hurry on her way. Black Lotus was horrified. He originally estimated that Su Li would spend at least a month here. How long had it been? In just half a month, Su Li had almost finished the devouring. In the first few days of the devouring, although Su Li's speed was fast, it was still normal. But after the evil ghosts behind Su Li exceeded the height of thousands of meters, the digestive ability immediately increased by several levels. In addition, with the suppression effect on the Ghost Clan, Su Li almost didn't need to stop along the way, and the sealed ghosts were killed on the way. The scene that Black Lotus imagined encountering powerful ghosts in the later stage and winning the difficult battle did not happen at all. How much has Su Li's strength improved? Crack. He couldn't help but shrink his neck when he saw the ghost that broke out of the seal and was then easily crushed and devoured by Su Li. Although his strength was greatly reduced because he didn't have a physical body, but this was the soul of the middle stage of nature's test. Another day and a half later, Su Li habitually crushed the ghost in her hand, but the scene of devouring did not appear again. She was stunned for a moment and turned to look at the phantom behind her. She saw that the phantom that burst the sky burped, and then shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Awakened? Black Lotus widened his eyes and stared at the phantom's change. The final form of the evil ghost largely determined Su Li's talent of evil ghost. Chapter 471. Su Li sat down cross-legged and waited patiently. It would take 6 hours to stop the shrinking speed. Before that, Su Li swallowed the haunted house, but she could only see but not sense the evil ghost behind her. But as the shadow gradually shrank, a special feeling gradually emerged from Su Li's heart. It was the feeling of control. Su Li clenched her hands, and Black Lotus immediately saw the evil ghost make the same action, but the action was very small. After awakening, you can completely control the evil ghost, which is the original talent of your body of evil ghost. Black Lotus looked solemn, without the usual playfulness. Because of your special birth, your body is a weak human clan, the evil ghost can only wake up now. Before awakening the talent of evil ghost, you can't control the shadow. The body of evil ghost ultimately determines the potential of the body of evil ghost. You obviously skipped the step of accumulation. Su Li heard the words, and there was a glimmer of expectation in her eyes. I'd like to see what kind of talent I can awaken. The forbidden alien that makes the Ghost Clan fearful should not be a loser who can only use blood to poison people, right? Black Lotus suddenly rolled his eyes. If you were a loser, then all the talents in Qingshui's circle didn't need to live. Time passed slowly. The shrinking speed of the evil ghost was slower than Su Li had imagined. After half a day, the evil ghost was only as tall as 2 people. Its black liquid-like body also began to wriggle rapidly, showing an embryonic form. the embryonic form of a human. Another 2 hours later, the height of the shadow was reduced to the level of Su Li, and the outline became clearer. The black faded and the color of flesh appeared. Not long after, a naked girl appeared in front of Su Li and looked at Su Li with sparkling eyes. "This is Su Li?" Black Lotus was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but wipe his eyes and look up again. It was not an illusion. This evil ghost unexpectedly turned into the face of your previous life. This. Black Lotus was excited. What the hell is going on? I have never met an evil ghost that can transform into the face of my previous life, and it is in the form of a human clan. Oh my god, Su Li, what kind of monster are you? Su Li frowned, reached out to open the universe ring, and put clothes on the evil ghost. With a thought, the evil ghost actually moved by itself. Except that it couldn't speak, it was full of spirituality. This face is already dead. I don't like it. Su Li's face was not very good. After practicing the all spirits tactics, she could change into any face without being noticed. But even so, she didn't want to restore the face of her previous life. Those unbearable past had long been buried with the death of the holy girl of Yushu sect. All that was left was hatred. As soon as Su Li finished her words, Black Lotus saw that the face of the evil ghost twisted and turned into Su Li's current appearance, just like a clone. Su Li, what is your talent? Quick, sense it. Black Lotus asked expectantly without thinking about the face of the evil ghost. Su Li closed her eyes slightly and sensed carefully. After only a moment, she suddenly opened her eyes, and a deep surprise flashed in her eyes. After more than 2 lives, there were few things that could make her state of mind fluctuate. Black Lotus was more curious when he saw her being so shaken. But before he could ask, there was a sudden explosion in the sky. Boom! Su Li looked up and immediately saw a crack in the originally gloomy sky, and a bitter chill came in through the crack. "Junior, how many ghosts have you swallowed?" A voice full of surprise and anger came into Su Li's ears from a very far distance. It was the figure of the dragon Shadow. Su Li was slightly shocked, but she didn't panic. She replied, "About 100,000. I don't remember the specific number." "What? You have eaten so much, but you are not stuffed to death." "I just awakened my talent." The dragon Shadow suddenly felt that he had suffered 10,000 points of damage. He resisted the jealousy in his heart and gritted his teeth. "The foundation of this small world has been eaten too much by you, and it is about to be destroyed. Leave here quickly. I also have to go. Otherwise, if the natural law finds you and me, it will send the thunder of doom." Ghosts are the foundation of the ancestral land? Su Li's face darkened. "Senior, why didn't you say it earlier? Bastard. I thought that you, as a junior, could eat thousands of ghosts at most, but I never thought." The dragon Shadow said angrily, "and didn't have the unfathomable appearance just now." Su Li was amazed. Suddenly, she heard a faint sound of thunder. Then she saw the dragon Shadow tremble with fear. He immediately urged his power to open a whirlpool and got into it. He disappeared with the huge skeleton in the blink of an eye. "Where else can he go?" "How do I know?" Black Lotus said grumpily. "You'd better think about yourself." I sensed that many practitioners of the human clan are covetously watching outside, and one of them has an extremely terrible pneuma. Su Li's eyes flickered slightly, but she didn't panic. She cast the all-spirits tactics on herself, and her appearance suddenly became blurred. "It doesn't matter. I got a lot of things from the inheritance of the dragon Shadow. I have a high affinity with the ancestral land of the Ghost Clan. The destruction of the small world will produce great power, and the natural law will also avoid it. I can control a part of it." Black Lotus, who was in a panic, suddenly brightened his eyes when he heard this. "Can you help me get hundreds of ghost practitioners' souls to taste?" "Get out." "I was wrong, Master." I just want to repair the spirit body. Above Nanli City, the cold wind was biting cold. 20 teams had come to this point, and only 4 teams of the peak holy sects were left. Of course, the other 17 teams joined in, but only 30% of them froze to death. Fang Mu, who occupied the east side of Nanli City, looked dignified and took a breath. It's really not easy to get involved in this mess. He looked up at the other 3 sects who occupied one side of Nanli City, and then his eyes returned to the ancient well in the center of the city, which was the only one that was not frozen. In the vast expanse of whiteness, there was only a little black dot, which was too conspicuous. The moment the teams of the 4 sects arrived, everyone found the abnormality of the ancient well. Ice Demon is probably in that ancient well. Everyone was talking about it, and many casual practitioners who had lived until now were also excited. Finally, they could see the true appearance of Ice Demon. Something is wrong. In the palace of Huangxing Hall, the gray-haired old woman frowned, and her old face instantly wrinkled like a piece of bark. Your Highness, I smell an extremely ominous breath. Yin Xuedong frowned tightly. The 4th elder's deduction skill was second only to the 1st elder among all the elders of Huangxing Hall, so she naturally believed it. But since they had come here, there was absolutely no reason to turn around. Even if she wanted to save the sect, she would definitely be punished when she returned. Let's wait and see. Let's leave as soon as we get Ice Demon. The old woman nodded anxiously. She also knew that it was unrealistic to retreat, but the uneasiness in her heart became stronger. Ha! I finally found the hiding place of Ice Demon. You 3, if you still don't move, it will be impolite for me to refuse. In the Palace of the West, Chu Qingning with a pale face came out with a smile. He glanced at Yin Xuedong evilly and said in an arrogant tone. Yin Xuedong's beautiful face flashed a trace of uneasiness, but she recovered in an instant. She said with a smile, since the young lord of Ankuei Valley is so anxious, why not explore the way first? Thank you in advance. Haha, Sister Xuedong, after 1,000 years, you haven't changed at all. Chu Qingning grinned, but his eyes were cold like a poisonous snake. He said, I haven't settled the old score with you yet. You too, if you have any grievances, let's go back. I don't have the patience to listen to you quarrel. Fang Mu showed up with a cold face. He looked at Chu Qingning and Yin Xuedong with strong disgust, which was not concealed. Ha ha! It's a pity. I really want to know what you 3 have experienced in that broken mirror. It's a pity that Master doesn't allow it. In front of the palace of Xingtian Shrine, the woman with a veil walked leisurely and swayed. The other 3 people all snorted coldly and stopped talking. Xingtian Shrine, the head of the 4 peaks, could be built with countless flesh and blood. No matter which of the other 3 sects faced Xingtian Shrine, they would be invisibly inferior. Especially the woman who led the team this time, they all knew her. She was as ruthless as evil emperor. In terms of killing people, she might not be as many as evil emperor. But in terms of means, all the disciples of the 4 peak holy sects were probably not as good as her. This had nothing to do with identity, talent, or bloodline. It was just because she was the pro-disciple of Fate Ancestor. The Emperor of Evil was notorious. Although he had Xingtian Shrine as his backer, if the other 3 sects killed him secretly, Xingtian Shrine would not pursue it with great fanfare. But this woman was different. The name of Fate Ancestor could be traced back to a long time ago. It was even said that he had become a part of the natural law. If someone dared to hurt his pro-disciple, there was absolutely no way to survive, unless it was the Grand Elder of the 4 peak holy sections. Since I'm here on this trip to the Ice Demon, there's no reason for me to let my younger brothers and sisters take the risk. Zhu Quan, take some people to go in and investigate first. The woman stretched out her white hand and handed out a crystal-clear jade pendant. Zhu Quan took the jade pendant and jumped down from the palace without saying a word. At this moment, everyone recognized that the jade pendant was clearly a magic weapon to collect demons. Ha 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 ha, sister, let me help you. Chu Qingning licked his lips, and a gloomy light flashed in his eyes. He jumped down directly. The old man behind him sighed helplessly, but his pace did not slow down. He also fell into the well. Let's go too. Yin Xuerong and Fang Mu looked at each other and jumped into the well almost at the same time. At this moment, Su Li was still tirelessly devouring the souls of ghosts in the ancestral land. Before the destruction of this small world, she wanted to minimize the loss. Master, what are you doing? Your talent has been awakened, and these ghosts are useless. Black Lotus lay on the ring's surface. For the sake of the souls of ghost practitioners, he immediately changed the name shamelessly, and shouted very happily all the way. It's still useful. Su Li was so annoyed that she replied. Black Lotus was refreshed. Can your talent be used? No, but I want to refine the external incarnation. Su Li glanced at Black Lotus with disgust, and said disdainfully, You don't even know this. Have you lived for 10,000 years in vain? Chapter 472. Black Lotus's face darkened. Even if he had tens of thousands of years of memory, it would be less than half of that of the primordial ghost clan. He was still concerned about the ghost practitioner's soul, so he held back his indignation and said, Master, you have received part of the memory of the primordial ghost clan. Are you going to dislike me? Seeing that Black Lotus didn't argue with her as usual, Su Li couldn't help but feel bored and lost the mood to continue the discussion. Black Lotus put down his self-esteem and suddenly felt much more at ease. He couldn't help but ask curiously, I know the external incarnation. People have 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls. I have met many practitioners of the human clan who have incarnations before. But for the ghost clan, the soul is the root. There is only one, and the damage caused by the divided soul is almost irreversible. You have to be careful. Su Li glanced at him and made a gesture. An oil lamp phantom emerged. There were 10 light spots, 3 big and 7 small, shining on it. 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls? I also have them. Black Lotus stared at the lamp. Although he had guessed that Su Li was not a pure body of evil ghost and was likely to be a unique existence of the human clan, it was just a guess after all. When this scene appeared in front of him, it was inevitable to be shocked. Master, you really are an out-and-out anomaly. After holding back for a long time, Black Lotus flattered her and shrank back into the ring space. Su Li ignored it and continued to collect ghosts as soon as possible. Although she could also practice the external incarnation of the human clan, the incarnation she mentioned was essentially different from that of the human clan. After all, the Dragon Shadow was not a human clan, and the incarnation secret method taught by him could only be practiced by the primordial ghost clan. The incarnation of the human clan came from the divided soul, and the incubation time was not short. If the incarnation was injured or destroyed, the original body would also suffer the backfire. But the secret law taught by the Dragon Shadow was different. Its principle was more like the method of refining corpses, but the material was not the corpse but the soul. It only took a few days to refine an incarnation with the soul, and it could be put into actual combat. Even if 100 incarnations died, Su Li would not lose a hair. After all, it was what Su Li asked to resist nature's punishment. If one incarnation died, she would suffer the backfire, and the damage caused by the backfire was enough to kill Su Li. If the inheritance of the Dragon Shadow is correct, the incarnation's pneuma is the same as mine, and it can confuse the heaven. As long as I have enough avatars, I can delay the heavenly tribulation no matter how powerful it is. Su Li's eyes flickered. She made up her mind and collected ghosts faster. When she got out of this place, it would not be so easy to collect the souls of ghosts. Although the souls of the human clan were also a kind of the souls of ghosts, if she killed too many people in Jojo region, it would inevitably be exposed and affect her plan. Kacha, in the dark and cold cave, the people of Ankue Valley, Tianhe sect, and Huangxing Hall moved forward slowly, keeping their distance and being alert. With benefits in front of them, they didn't dare to trust anyone but themselves. People from Xingtian Shrine disappeared as soon as they came in. Fang Mu's eyes were slightly gloomy, and he looked into the depths of the cave. From time to time, there was a sound like glass cracking. Everyone's faces were solemn, not daring to be careless. At this moment, a white figure flashed past everyone's eyes and quickly entered the cave. That's the true form of the ice demon. The fourth elder of Huangxing Hall recognized it first. Yin Xuerong's pretty face changed instantly, and she shouted, "Chase." In fact, she didn't need to order. After the fourth elder said that, the people of the three major sects almost turned into shadows and chased to the depths at the same time. They all restrained themselves and didn't attack each other. Before catching the true form of the ice demon, any more fighting was futile. After a distance, there were 3 forks in the passage. Everyone stopped, but Chu Qingning threw himself into one of the holes without hesitation. Young lord. The old man who had been following Chu Qingning was very anxious. He couldn't care about anything else and also rushed in with others. Time is pressing. We can't let Ankue Valley get it first. Yin Xuerong said quickly. When she was about to throw herself into the hole where Chu Qingning entered, she suddenly saw an extremely faint white light flashing in the rightmost hole. She didn't have time to think much, and immediately changed her mind and took people into it. Fang Mu stood at the fork. He still looked calm and was not in a hurry. The Tianhe sect was the only righteous sect out of the 4 great sacred sects. The reason the Tianhe sect had sent him here was not because they were determined to get the ice demon, but because they wanted him to disrupt the actions of the other 3 sects when necessary. That way, they could form a good relationship with the greater demon. The white light kept flashing in the 3 holes, and Fang Mu frowned. He didn't know if it was his illusion, but he always felt that the 3 roads in front of him were all traps, and none of them really led to the ice demon's nest. "Uncle Chen, are you there?" He called in his heart and immediately got a response. "What's the matter? Help me see where the source of the cracking sound is." The existence in the dark was silent for a moment, and then a slightly tired voice came. "Boy, the source is on your left, about 300 meters away." Fang Mu pondered for a moment. In the puzzled eyes of many elders, he punched the ice wall on the left. Different from the hardness imagined, the ice wall instantly turned into ice chips flying all over the sky like tofu dregs, and a dark hidden hole appeared. Fang Mu's eyes lit up. "Let's go." Shortly after he took people in, the wall on the right side of the passage was suddenly blasted open, and Zhu Quan walked out expressionlessly. If you looked carefully, there was a trace of anger in it. "Damn it, I was fooled. This ice demon is extremely cunning. I can't catch up with it at all." Zhu Quan glanced at the other holes, and suddenly fixed her eyes on the hole where Fang Mu went in. There was no entrance here before. Who found it? Huangxing Hall, Ankue Valley? Or Tianhe sect? Zhu Chuan's face became gloomy. The original body of the ice demon is a beautiful snow fox. I want to catch it and offer it to Miss as a demon pet. It must not fall into the hands of others. Follow up. Zhu Quan was the personal maid of the disciple of the Fate Ancestor. Naturally, no one dared to disobey what she said. At the moment, she ignored her frozen, stiff body and entered the passage together. "Boy, you seem to have entered a strange area. It is very difficult for me to sense." The voice in his mind was even more tired. Fang Mu gently touched his eyebrows and let the consciousness fall asleep. He no longer needed guidance. What he saw in front of him was a frozen ancestral temple. In the courtyard of the ancestral temple, An ancient well exuded a faint blood light. The mouth of the well was only 1/10 of the size of the one outside. The ancient well outside is a virtual image. This is the real one. The elder beside Fang Mu said with a solemn expression, "It's so oppressive. Is it possible that the mighty demon is inside? A newborn mighty demon can't have a high intelligence. I'm afraid that this breath is undoubtedly emitted by the mighty demon." "Then how do you explain the diversion outside?" The elders looked embarrassed. They couldn't come to a conclusion for a while, but they didn't dare to go down the well rashly. The Inchi here was far from what the fake well outside could compare with. Even their average cultivation was at the late stage of Huashan realm. They felt frightened. "Whether it is true or not, we will know when we go down and have a look." Fang Mu stared at the ancient well and said. Before the elders had time to stop him, they heard a domineering shout suddenly coming from behind. "Wait! This well was first discovered by our Xingtian shrine. No one is allowed to go down." Zhuquan came with a group of disciples of Xingtian shrine. Facing the elders of Tianhe sect, she was not afraid at all. The elders of Tianhe sect changed their faces slightly. If they were the elders of Xingtian shrine, it would be fine. But these little kids dared to shout in front of them? Fang Mu narrowed his eyes and stood in front of the elders. "Zhuquan, do you really think that you can act recklessly in front of me because you are favored by the master? Even if I kill you now, your master will not take revenge on Tianhe sect for you. You have to think clearly." Zhu Chuan's pretty face was cold, but she didn't dare to really do anything out of line. She just snorted coldly, "Ice demon, my miss is determined to get it. Does your Tianhe sect want to go against Fate Ancestor?" Fang Mu suddenly chuckled. "Even you can use the banner of Fate Ancestor. The face of Fate Ancestor is really worthless." As soon as these words came out, the faces of the elders of Tianhe sect changed first before the people of Xingtian shrine said anything. "Young lord, be careful with your words. Fate Ancestor can't be offended." Zhuquan was originally trembling with anger. Seeing that the elders of Tianhe sect automatically gave in, she felt comfortable and provoked. "Your Excellency, young lord, it seems that your fans are not as bold as you." Fang Mu's face became gloomy, and suddenly returned to normal. He stepped aside and said coldly, "If you don't want to go in, you can continue to wait here for the other two sects to come. How about that?" Fang Mu's reaction was unexpected. Zhuquan felt that she was dwarfed, and her heart was slightly blocked. But thinking of her master's order, she still snorted coldly and quickly led everyone down the well. "Young lord, when all the people of Xingtian shrine went down the well, a group of elders immediately gathered around, and they all looked ashamed. Fang Mu reached out to stop them, frowning and silent. Just now, the sleeping existence in his mind forcibly woke up again and sent him a message. Boy, there is something hidden in Zhu Chuan's shadow. You can't deal with it. Let her go down." At this moment, after Zhuquan and others went down the well, they quickly found the secret passage at the top of the passage, but this passage had been covered by ice at the moment, so it was difficult to enter. Seeing this, Zhuquan knelt down without hesitation, and put her forehead on the ground. She said respectfully, "Your Honor, please show up and remove the obstacles." As soon as she finished speaking, the shadow behind Zhuquan and all the other young disciples skyrocketed and turned into another human form. After the form stabilized, the shadow behind Zhuquan spoke in human language. "Useless. We even have to open the way by ourselves." As it said, the arms of all the figures instantly turned into a long spear. Without any movement, the long spear instantly rotated and turned into a dozen giant sharp cones piercing the ice. Boom! The deafening sound passed through the ice into the ears of every living creature on the ground at the moment. "What's that sound?" Yin Xuerong and others, who were still exploring aimlessly, immediately stopped and decisively turned to the source of the sound. Fang Mu felt the greatest shock, but he did not go down, because the voice in his mind was repeating tirelessly, "Danger! Run!" Chapter 473. Escape. Fang Mu was tense, but he didn't move. "Young lord, the source of the sound is below." Halfway through his sentence, the elder beside him suddenly changed his expression and looked behind him vigilantly. "Mu." In Xuerong appeared with people and said kindly, "I have been doing useless work for a long time, but you have been here for a long time. Tell me, have you found anything?" Fang Mu frowned and said in a low and distant voice, "Holy girl In, you are too much." In Xuerong smiled and didn't care. "Since young lord feels uncomfortable, let's put it another way. In fact, your eldest brother, Fang Yuan, is also here." Fang Mu's pupil shrank slightly, and his heartbeat accelerated slightly. But he sneered and said, "Do you think I will believe you just because of your words? It seems that you have grown a lot after Fang Yuan left. I still remember that when we were separated 1,000 years ago, you were still crying and screaming. You were very depressed." In Xuerong's words were sincere and emotional, but it made Fang Mu more angry. "In Xuerong, don't be impatient." In Xuerong stopped smiling and became serious. "Your eldest brother is wholeheartedly for that person. Now the ice demon appears in the world. If the ice demon dies and the reincarnation opens, that person— It's impossible!" Fang Mu interrupted her in a cold voice. "It's impossible for a person whose soul is scattered to be in the reincarnation. But you also know." In Xuerong slightly raised her red lips. "A person like your eldest brother will never miss even if there is only a slight possibility. I am sure that he is now in our 4 teams. Fang Mu was shocked, and his eyes were bright. "Let's go." All the elders immediately followed him. "By the way, holy girl In, it's impolite not to reciprocate. I advise you that this place is a unique dead end. Don't die here without getting anything." After saying this, Fang Mu left without looking back. All the elders behind In Xuerong smiled, and looked at their saintess with a bit of worship in their eyes. Eliminating an opponent with just a few words was simply a godlike method. As for the words left by Fang Mu, no one cared. The 4th elder, who was an expert in divination, was right beside them. They had no reason to believe a young boy. On the other hand, In Xuerong's eyebrows furrowed slightly. The Tianhe sect was a righteous sect, and they didn't have much interest in the ice demon. Now that they had heard about the young master, their thoughts had long since flown away. She had never considered the Tianhe sect an opponent. But Fang Mu said that this place was a dead end. She pinched the jade pendant hanging on her neck with her fingertip. Sensing that it was intact, she felt a little relieved in her heart. She smiled sweetly and said, "Young master of Ankuei Valley, are you willing to go with me?" In the dark, Chu Qingning, with a pale face, strode over and grinned. "My pleasure." Zhu Quan looked gloomily at In Xuerong and Chu Qingning coming together. Huangxing Hall and Ankuei Valley actually joined hands, which was not good news. "Looks like we came at the right time." Chu Qingning smiled and showed his white teeth. He stared at the white fox, who was in a panic behind the transparent ice, with greed in his eyes. "Ice demon, it's really easy to get it. Boy, get out of here quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for tearing you alive regardless of the face of Ankuei Valley." The leading black shadow turned his head, and his eyes flashed with anger. Chu Qingning was not afraid when he heard the words. Instead, he sneered, "Who do you think you are? You are neither a human nor a ghost. I don't know if you will be killed by your ugliness when you look in the mirror in the middle of the night." As soon as he said this, several black shadows immediately rushed over angrily. In Xuerong stepped back without a trace, and her eyes flashed with alertness and doubt. After Chu Qingning practiced the Dark Codex, his temperament changed greatly. Those more than a dozen black shadows were obviously not ordinary characters. She really didn't understand why Chu Qingning had to talk back at this time. Chu Qingning didn't hesitate at all when he saw this. He smiled and stretched out his hand to grab the black shadow's arm. But at this moment, boom! The restless white fox let out a sharp howl, and the original fine crack in the ancient well expanded to the size of a fist in the blink of an eye. The white fox was overjoyed and immediately rushed into the crack. Oh no, the ice demon escaped. Everyone's face changed slightly. The black shadow that had attacked Chu Qingning suddenly turned back and bombarded the ice with all its strength. Chu Qingning, enchantment, what are you waiting for? If you let the ice demon escape, no one will get any benefits. Zhuquan propped up her tired body and roared with a livid face. Enchantment's eyes flashed. Zhuquan was not in a good state at the moment. The black shadows that parasitized on them obviously consumed their vitality. Shengtian Shrine and the Devil's Doctrine are really a group of people with no bottom line. This thought flashed in Enchantment's mind, but on the surface, he had bombarded the ice without hesitation. At least Zhuquan was right. This ice demon had great potential. It made such a big noise when it was just born. If it escaped, it would not only be a loss. When it grew up in the future, it would be a great threat. Su Li put away the soul in her hand. Suddenly, she felt something and looked up. She saw that the sky, which originally had only a crack, was cracked densely, like a tattered rag. The small mysterious realm won't last long. I still have at least 50,000 souls to recover. Su Li felt it was a pity, but she was already satisfied. The souls in Black Lotus Ring were at least enough for her to make hundreds of external incarnations. Black Lotus looked at the souls in the space of his ring and couldn't wait to pounce on them. But he also knew that these souls had been sealed for too long and had lost the spirituality he needed most. Even if he swallowed all of them, he might not recover much. It was more reliable to wait for Su Li to help him collect. At least there were still many ghost practitioners in Ghost Region. Taking advantage of this chaos, he could definitely absorb a lot. Crack, crack, the crack was getting bigger and bigger. Su Li could even faintly see the ancient well full of cracks through the sky. She stopped completely and closed her eyes to sense the connection with the ancestral land of the aristocracy. But it didn't take long for her to sense it. She heard a crack and opened her eyes to see a white fox falling in front of her. When the white fox saw that there was someone in the secret realm, it was furious. Its crystal eyes were full of irritation and uneasiness. Its tail was raised high, and a bone-chilling chill spread from its feet in an instant. It rushed to Su Li. Huh? The chill I sensed was made by you, little guy. Su Li looked at the frozen ice layer under her feet. With a slight shake, the ice layer shattered. The white fox suddenly became more manic and was about to launch a second attack. But before it launched, its feet became soft and it fell to the ground. Dark red blood flowed along its stomach. Its body was very fragile. It had been injured since it fell from such a high place. Whimper! The white fox whimpered and looked at the sky full of cracks. Its gem-like crystal eyes revealed sadness and despair. Why did so many people want to kill it? It was just born and couldn't control the spread of the ice. It didn't mean it. Suddenly, it felt that it was wrapped by a mass of softness, and a warm breath poured into its body. It was so comfortable, it closed its eyes comfortably and fell asleep. Hey, Master, you actually chose to save it? Black Lotus looked at Su Li in surprise, as if he knew her for the first time. He just made it clear that if she ate this little thing, the nature's punishment that Su Li faced was likely to be directly reduced to a level and would no longer be a threat to her. Su Li glanced at Black Lotus and ignored him. While communicating with the ancestral land of the Ghost Clan, she ran the Ghost Valley meditation direction to heal the little white fox. It was indeed her impulse to save the white fox, but she didn't regret it. The life of the little white fox was so similar to her previous life. There was nothing wrong, but she had to bear a lot of dangers. She had been ruined, but the little white fox met her. Several hours passed in the blink of an eye, and the sky had been mostly cracked. The figures outside the sky flickered, and all kinds of malice poured in. The white fox instantly woke up. What came into view was a pair of bright and beautiful eyes. The little fox had never seen such gentle eyes. It was intoxicated for a moment and couldn't help but lean into Su Li's arms. Although it was still young, it could instinctively sense that the human in front of it was different from those outside. She had no malice to it, and even was very fond of it. "I'll give you a name," Su Li murmured in a soft tone. "You are born extraordinary, but others are jealous of you. People in the world always have the strongest malice when they see us as aliens. I hope you will not be troubled by it all your life. You will follow my surname and be called Su Wuyo." The white fox blinked its watery eyes and nodded with a squeak. It couldn't speak yet, but it understood what Su Li meant. At the moment when the white fox nodded, the sky finally broke into two pieces with a crack. Practitioners of various sects swarmed in, and the weather changed. The white fox showed a humanized panic on its face. Su Li gently stroked its soft fur and squinted with a smile. "Don't worry. No one can hurt you here." Swish, swish, swish. Streaks of flowing light came and surrounded Su Li. Su Li tilted her head and looked at the leaders. Finally, her eyes fell on the enchanting masked woman of Xingtian Shrine. Ling Xian. She narrowed her eyes slightly, and a dangerous luster flashed in them. Even with a veil, it didn't prevent her from recognizing the identity of the woman. In the reincarnation mirror, it was because of her that she embarked on a road of no return. However, Ling Xian died in the reincarnation mirror. After coming out, she should have no memory of what happened there. "Who are you? Why are you in this small mysterious realm?" The atmosphere was silent for a moment. Finally, someone couldn't help but ask. Su Li turned around and saw Shuedong's face. She moved her lips and said in a flat tone, "There are a lot of acquaintances here today." As soon as the words came out, Shuedong and other leading young masters couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Did this woman know them? But they had no impression of this mysterious woman. Although she covered her face, her breath was still there. This breath was extremely strange. Humph, deliberately mystifying. "Hurry up and hand over the ice demon, or you won't leave alive." Zhu Chuan's eyes were fierce. She just said a sentence, and the next moment she suddenly turned into a stream of light and shot into the sky, exploding with a bang. Su Li smiled and swept away the blood rain on the top of her head. "What did you say? I didn't hear you clearly." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.